Welcome back, dear friends of the night, to another chilling journey into the shadows. Tonight, we're re-diving into a subject that combines two of the most unsettling things in the world: hospitals and hauntings. For most of us, hospitals are places of healing. There where lives are saved, where babies take their first breath, and where countless acts of courage and compassion happen every day. But behind the sterile hallways and glowing fluorescent lights, hospitals are also places of great suffering. They are places where many have drawn their very last breath. And as history has shown us, time and time again, where there is suffering, there are spirits. Canada, with its vast landscapes and deep history, has more than its fair share of haunted places. But hospitals, they take haunting to another level. Imagine walking down an empty hospital hallway and hearing footsteps echoing behind you when you know you're the only one there. Or picture waking up in a recovery room and seeing an old nurse leaning over your bed, only to realize she died decades ago. From abandoned asylums that once housed thousands of patients, to still operating hospitals where staff whisper about the woman in white or the man in the basement. Tonight we'll uncover 25 of the most haunted hospitals in Canada. Each one comes with its own terrifying stories of ghostly patients, shadowy figures, and restless souls that never checked out. So dim the lights, grab a blanket, and prepare yourself, because these tales aren't just rumors. They're chilling accounts that nurses, doctors, and even patients themselves swear are real. And who knows, by the end of tonight's video, you might think twice the next time you walk down a hospital hallway alone. Let's begin. Riverview Hospital in Coquitlam, British Columbia, stands as one of the most infamous institutions in Canadian history. Opened in 1913 under the name Essendale, the facility was intended to house and treat patients with severe mental illness at a time when mental health care was still in its infancy. What began as a hopeful project quickly became a place of fear, cruelty, and, in time, enduring ghost stories that still haunt its halls today. At its peak, Riverview housed thousands of patients across multiple sprawling buildings. The institution was designed to be self-sufficient, with its own farm, laundry, bakery, and even greenhouses that supplied food and flowers. On the surface, it was presented as a model of compassionate psychiatric care. But beneath that image was a much darker reality. Treatments used inside Riverview reflected the brutal medical practices of the era. Electroconvulsive therapy was administered in ways that left patients broken. Lobotomies, which were crude surgeries meant to cure mental illness, often left people permanently damaged. Isolation was used as punishment as much as treatment, locking vulnerable patients away for days or weeks at a time. The sheer suffering that took place inside the hospital left scars not only on its patients, but also on the staff who worked there. Nurses and doctors often witnessed human despair on a massive scale. Many later admitted that they felt the hospital itself had a heavy, oppressive energy that clung to them long after they left their shifts. For the families of patients, Riverview became a place of whispered dread. Some who sent their loved ones then never saw them again. As years passed, reports of strange occurrences inside the hospital began to surface. Staff described hearing footsteps in empty wards, doors slamming shut without cause, and the sound of whispered conversations when no one was there. Some claimed to see shadowy figures pacing the hallways, often dressed in outdated patient gowns. Others told of ghostly nurses who seemed to patrol the wards, carrying medicine trays that vanished into thin air. The longer these stories circulated, the stronger Riverview's reputation as a haunted place grew. Urban explorers who ventured into the abandoned buildings after its closure in 2012 often reported chilling experiences of their own. Some swore they heard screams echoing down hallways. Though the buildings were empty, others felt sudden cold spots, as if someone unseen had passed through them. The most terrifying encounters involve full apparitions patients, seen sitting in wheelchairs at the end of corridors, or faces appearing in cracked windows, only to disappear when approached. One story tells of a group who entered an old ward and saw what appeared to be a woman standing by a bed. They assumed she was another explorer, until she turned revealed a hollowed face, and vanished before their eyes. The energy of Riverview is said to be particularly strong in its abandoned wards, where peeling paint and rusting equipment create an eerie backdrop for supernatural encounters. Wheelchairs have been found positioned in hallways, despite being left in storage. Lights flicker on and off in buildings with no electricity. Some visitors report hearing faint crying, as though patients from long ago are still reaching out in pain. What makes the haunting of Riverview even more chilling is its connection to real tragedy. Many patients lived their entire lives within its walls, never returning to the outside world. Some were buried in unmarked graves, their identities forgotten. Families who lost contact with loved ones often never received closure. It is believed by many paranormal investigators that the restless spirits at Riverview are those who died in despair, still seeking recognition and peace. Hollywood has also added to the legend because of its haunting atmosphere. Riverview Hospital became a popular filming location for movies and television shows, particularly those in the horror genre. Productions like The X-Files, Supernatural, and The Butterfly Effect shot scenes inside its eerie wards. Actors and crew members frequently reported strange experiences during filming. Some felt as if they were being watched, while others refused to enter certain rooms alone. The fact that even seasoned professionals accustomed to spooky sets found Riverview unnerving speaks volumes about its lingering energy. Despite its closure, Riverview continues to draw attention from paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters. Investigations have captured unexplained voices, temperature drops, and shadowy figures caught on camera. Some mediums who visited claimed to sense overwhelming sadness, describing the spirits as trapped between two worlds, unable to move on because of the trauma they endured in life. For the city of Coquitlam, Riverview is both a historic site and a reminder of how far mental health care has come and how far it still needs to go. Efforts have been made to preserve the grounds and buildings, but the legacy of what occurred there will never truly fade. The hospital remains one of the most talked about haunted locations in Canada, not only because of the paranormal stories. Today, those who stand before the massive complex often describe a strange sensation, as though the air itself is heavier there. Even in daylight, the hospital exudes an aura of sorrow and mystery. At night, when the shadows deepen and the silence grows, it's easy to imagine the spirits of patients and nurses still moving through the corridors, repeating the routines of lives cut short or forever changed. Riverview Hospital is more than just a crumbling building. It is a symbol of human suffering, of forgotten lives, and of energies that refuse to let go. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is undeniable. The history of Riverview has left a haunting mark that continues to echo through time. And for those who dare to walk its halls after dark, the line between past and present may feel disturbingly thin. The Charles Camsell Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta, is a place where history and tragedy intertwine in ways that are impossible to ignore. Built in the 1940s, it was originally established as a tuberculosis hospital during a time when the disease was ravaging communities across Canada. Tuberculosis was a silent killer, treated and, in many cases, left to die. Its cold brick walls absorbed not just the echoes of footsteps and medical machinery, but also the suffering of thousands of people who passed through its doors. One of the darkest truths about Charles Camsell Hospital is its role in the treatment of Indigenous people. Many Indigenous men, women, and children were forcibly taken from their communities and sent here against their will. Families were often told they had no choice, that their loved ones needed specialized care that could only be found within the hospital. For countless families, that separation was final. Many patients never returned home, their deaths hidden in bureaucratic silence, and their bodies buried in graves far from their communities. The sense of loss and disconnection became part of the hospital's legacy, one that continues to reverberate in Indigenous memory and oral history. Inside its walls, life was often bleak. While some patients recovered, many endured endless days of isolation. Visitors were rare, treatments were harsh, and the atmosphere of hopelessness was suffocating. The wards were filled with the sound of coughing, wheezing, and crying. Death was a daily presence. Staff members would roll beds down the corridors, carrying away those who had succumbed to the disease. The hospital was supposed to be a place of healing, but for many it was nothing less than a waiting room for death. Over the years, as tuberculosis began to decline and treatments improved, the hospital's role changed. It was repurposed for other medical uses, including serving as a general hospital and even as a military facility for returning soldiers during certain periods. Yet no matter how its function shifted, the energy within its walls remained heavy. Nurses and doctors came and went, but many reported the same sensations. Feelings of being watched, cold drafts sweeping through sealed rooms, and sounds echoing through empty hallways. By the late 20th century, when the hospital finally closed its doors, its reputation for being haunted was firmly established. Abandoned for years, the Charles Camsell Hospital became a magnet for urban explorers, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers. Its towering structure loomed over the neighborhood like a relic from another time, its broken windows and decaying walls daring the curious to step inside. Those who did often came out shaken. Security guards patrolling the premises spoke of hearing children crying from the basement, a sound so distinct and heartbreaking that some refused to work alone. Others heard doors slamming shut with such force that it rattled the walls, only to find no one inside. Temperature drops were another common occurrence. Entire rooms would suddenly become icy cold, as though unseen presences were moving through them. Paranormal investigators, who brought in equipment, recorded unexplained fluctuations in electromagnetic fields and captured chilling electronic voice phenomena. Some of the most compelling stories come from those who claim to see full apparitions. A common sighting is that of a nurse dressed in an old-fashioned uniform, complete with a cap, silently walking the halls with a tray of medicine. Witnesses say she appears focused on her task, gliding along as if still bound by duty, only to vanish before their eyes. The hospital's indigenous history adds another layer to the hauntings. Some visitors have described seeing figures that resemble indigenous children darting in and out of rooms, or hearing soft voices singing in languages they don't recognize. These accounts are deeply unsettling because they connect directly to the very real and painful history of patients being taken from their homes. For many indigenous communities, the Charles Camsell Hospital represents not just a medical institution, but a place where trauma and cultural erasure occurred. The spirits said to linger there are believed by some to be those of patients who died without family by their side, unable to return to their homelands, forever bound to the hospital's walls. In recent years, redevelopment plans for the site have emerged, with efforts to transform the property into a residential area. Yet even as construction crews work on parts of the building, strange experiences continue to be reported. Workers have mentioned tools disappearing, voices calling out their names, and the overwhelming feeling that someone is watching them from the shadows. Some refuse to enter certain parts of the old hospital alone, claiming the air feels too heavy, as though dozens of unseen eyes are upon them. For the people of Edmonton, the Charles Camsell Hospital is more than just an abandoned building. It is a monument to suffering, a reminder of a medical history that was often cruel, and a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels dangerously thin. Ghost stories surrounding the hospital are not just tales meant to frighten. They are reflections of the sorrow and injustice that marked its existence. Every creak of the floorboards, every unexplained noise, feels like an echo of the lives that once filled the wards. Standing before the old structure today, one can still feel its presence. The broken windows stare out like hollow eyes, and the silence that surrounds the building carries with it an unmistakable weight. For those who believe in spirits, Charles Camsell Hospital remains one of the most haunted locations in Alberta. For those who do not, it still stands as a place of undeniable tragedy, where history has carved deep scars into the walls. Whether through ghostly apparitions or lingering memories, the hospital continues to speak, reminding us that some places never truly let go of their past. St. Joseph's Hospital in Victoria, British Columbia, is a place where the past seems unwilling to loosen its grip. Although it no longer functions as a hospital, the site continues to attract attention from locals and visitors who sense that something unseen lingers within its walls. For decades, the building was a cornerstone of the community, run by Catholic sisters whose devotion to healing left an indelible mark on the city. Yet, behind the benevolence and care, the hospital also bore witness to sorrow, loss, and a lingering spiritual presence that refuses to be silenced. The hospital was originally operated by a congregation of nuns who dedicated their lives to caring for the sick and dying. In the days before modern medicine, hospitals were places of both healing and heartbreak, where miracles sometimes occurred, but where death was an ever-present visitor. At St. Joseph's, countless patients passed through its wards, some finding recovery, while others took their final breaths under the watchful eyes of the sisters. These nuns were not just caregivers, but also guardians of the spirit, praying over patients who were slipping away and offering comfort to families in their darkest hours. It is said that their devotion never truly left the grounds. Even today, locals and former staff speak of ghostly figures dressed in habits, seen kneeling in the old chapel or moving silently down shadowy corridors. Witnesses describe them as calm, almost serene, as if still carrying out their sacred duties. The apparition of a nun holding rosary beads has been reported on more than one occasion, sometimes spotted near the former wards where patients once lay. These figures never speak, never acknowledge the living, but seem entirely focused on prayers that echo from another time. The chapel itself has long been the center of strange activity. Though the building no longer serves its original purpose, those who pass by at night have reported seeing a faint glow inside, as if candles are flickering despite the room being locked and abandoned. Some even claim to hear the low murmur of voices reciting prayers, though no one is there. The sound carries with an almost musical quality, like a choir faintly heard from behind the walls. When investigated, the space is empty, silent, and chilled with an unnatural coldness. Former staff members, particularly those who worked at the night shifts, recall unsettling experiences that made them question their own senses. One nurse admitted that she often felt as if someone was standing just behind her shoulder. The sensation was so strong that she could hear the faintest sound of breathing, as though another presence was leaning close. But every time she turned, the hallway was empty, the silence stretching endlessly in both directions. After years of working in the hospital, she grew accustomed to the feeling, though it never stopped making her skin crawl. Other employees spoke of footsteps echoing down corridors after midnight, the steady pace of shoes tapping against the tile floors. The sounds would grow louder, as though approaching, only to stop abruptly when someone turned to look. Doors that had been locked would sometimes open on their own, swinging gently as if pushed by unseen hands. In patient rooms, lights flickered even after the power had been disconnected, glowing faintly for seconds before plunging the room into darkness again. Perhaps the most chilling stories come from those who encountered full apparitions of patients. There are accounts of figures lying in empty hospital beds, their outlines faint but undeniable, disappearing when approached. Others tell of a man in a hospital gown wandering down the hallways with a lost, confused expression. Witnesses who tried to speak to him said he vanished before answering, dissolving into the air as though he had never been there at all. Visitors frequently mention an unexplained sadness that clings to the building. Some say it feels as if the walls themselves have absorbed decades of grief, prayer, and desperation. Paranormal investigators who have studied the site note fluctuations in temperature, unexplained shadows moving across rooms, and strange audio recordings that capture whispers too faint for the human ear to hear during the investigation itself. What sets St. Joseph's apart from other haunted hospitals is the nature of its spirits. Unlike places associated with cruelty or mistreatment, the presences here are often described as protective or mournful rather than violent. The nuns who appear are seen as gentle guardians, still tending to the souls of patients long gone. The patients themselves are believed to be lingering out of confusion, attached to the place where their final moments unfolded. Even so, not every encounter is comforting. For some, the very act of standing in the hallways after dark is enough to create a sense of dread. The idea that unseen eyes are always watching, that every shadow may conceal a presence, makes it nearly impossible to feel alone within its walls. Those who have spent extended time there often describe dreams of the hospital long after leaving, as if it imprints itself upon the mind. Though no longer a working medical facility, St. Joseph's remains a fixture in Victoria's folklore. Locals avoid the grounds at night, wary of the strange lights that flicker in the windows and the possibility of catching sight of the ghostly figures within. For others, it is a place of reverence, where the memory of selfless care and unwavering devotion lives on in ways that transcend death. Whether seen as holy or haunted, the hospital continues to hold a presence that cannot be explained away by logic alone. To this day, those who pass by say the air around St. Joseph's feels different. Some describe it as peaceful, others as chilling, but nearly everyone agrees that the building carries energy that is impossible to ignore. The ghostly nuns, the phantom patients, and the strange flickering lights serve as reminders that hospitals are not simply places of healing. They are also places of endings, where prayers, grief, and hope leave marks that last long after the last patient has gone. St. Joseph's Hospital stands as a testament to that lingering power, a place where the veil between past and present remains forever thin. Opened in 1854, Kingston Psychiatric Hospital in Ontario stands as one of Canada's oldest and most notorious mental institutions. For more than a century, it served as a place where the vulnerable were sent, sometimes for genuine treatment, and sometimes simply to be hidden away from society. The building was meant to be a beacon of healing, but like so many psychiatric facilities of its era, it quickly became a grim warehouse for human suffering. Overcrowding was a constant problem, funding was scarce, and outdated methods of treatment often caused more harm than good. Patients endured everything from solitary confinement to primitive shock therapies, with little hope of recovery. Many families never saw their loved ones again after they were admitted, their stories swallowed by the hospital's massive stone walls. For thousands, Kingston Psychiatric Hospital was not a place of healing, but a final stop in life. The sorrow embedded within its walls seems to linger even now, long after the hospital shut down. Today, the abandoned halls are whispered to be alive with echoes of the past. Former staff, security guards, and curious explorers all describe the same eerie sensations. Phantom footsteps echoing down locked corridors, faint whispers in wards that have been empty for decades, and icy cold drafts that seem to appear from nowhere. Some visitors describe hearing muffled cries, as if patients are still calling out for help from beyond the grave. The most disturbing accounts involve apparitions. Witnesses have claimed to see shadowy figures in tattered hospital gowns, wandering aimlessly through the wards. Their faces are often pale, their eyes empty, as though they are trapped in an endless cycle of suffering. Doors are said to open and slam shut on their own, and lights flicker in areas where electricity has long been cut off. One recurring story involves a spectral man who roams the hospital grounds late at night. His presence is chilling enough, but witnesses insist he is missing his head entirely. This headless apparition is often described as staggering slowly, as if searching for something he has lost. Those who have seen him up close say the figure radiates overwhelming despair, and anyone who locks eyes with his empty neck cavity is left with a sense of dread that lingers for days. Some speculate he was a patient who met a particularly violent end, though no official records support this. Regardless, his ghostly form continues to haunt the property, a terrifying reminder of the tragedies buried in its history. Even outside the hospital itself, the land feels heavy. Locals passing by at night report strange lights glowing in upper windows, as though lanterns or candles are still burning in rooms that have been sealed for decades. On quiet evenings, the wind seems to carry faint voices, prayers, and moans across the property. Dogs walking near the old grounds often refuse to move forward, whining and pulling their owners in the opposite direction. Paranormal investigators who have entered the building describe strong electromagnetic readings, sudden temperature drops, and an undeniable sense of being watched. Some have recorded what they believe to be electronic voice phenomena, whispers, caught on tape that were not heard in the moment. One chilling recording reportedly captured the words, "Don't leave me," spoken in a trembling voice. Though no one was physically present, the deeper one ventures inside, the stronger the energy seems to grow. The former isolation cells, where patients were kept in complete darkness, are said to be the most active. Visitors describe overwhelming feelings of panic, dread, and suffocation when they step inside, as if the walls themselves are pressing down on them. Some have fled after only a few seconds, unable to bear the invisible weight pressing on their chest. Former staff members have admitted that even while the hospital was in operation, strange things occurred. Nurses spoke of hearing their names whispered when no one was around. Orderlies described seeing fleeting shadows dart across hallways. Patients often complained about figures standing in the corners of their rooms, figures that no one else could see. These reports were dismissed at the time as delusions. But given the building's current reputation, many now wonder if the patients had been telling the truth all along. Kingston Psychiatric Hospital has since been closed, but its reputation as one of Canada's most haunted institutions continues to draw curiosity seekers. For some, it is a historical site, a monument to the forgotten struggles of mental health care. For others, it is a place of restless spirits, where trauma has imprinted itself so deeply that it refuses to fade. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, stepping onto the grounds of the old hospital brings an undeniable sense of unease. The silence is thick, broken only by the occasional creak of the building settling or the distant rustle of leaves. Yet beneath that silence lies the weight of generations of suffering voices that were never heard, lives that were never valued, and stories that remain trapped within the walls. To this day, the Kingston Psychiatric Hospital remains a chilling reminder of both the darkness of the past and the lingering mystery of the unknown. For those who dare to explore it, the experience is never easily forgotten. Many leave convinced that the building still houses more than just memories. It carries the restless souls of those who were never able to leave. The Hôtel Dieu in Quebec City is not just one of the oldest hospitals in North America. It's a place steeped in centuries of history, care, and tragedy. Founded in 1639 by French nuns, the hospital quickly became a center of healing during a time when medical knowledge was limited and life was often fragile. Over nearly 4 centuries, Hôtel Dieu has witnessed plagues, war, injuries, and countless personal stories of suffering and recovery. Its walls have absorbed the weight of human experience, and according to many, they have retained echoes of the past that are impossible to ignore. One of the most compelling aspects of the hospital's reputation involves sightings of the nuns who originally ran it. Staff members, particularly nurses working night shifts, have reported seeing ghostly figures gliding silently down the corridors. Dressed in traditional habits, these apparitions appear to move with purpose, as though still tending to the sick. They rarely interact with the living, but their presence is unmistakable, evoking both awe and unease. Some employees describe feeling an inexplicable sense of calm or reassurance when these figures are near, as if the nuns are continuing their work from beyond the grave. Others, however, find the encounters unnerving, a reminder that the past lingers in ways that cannot always be explained. Patients, too, have reported encounters with the supernatural. Perhaps the most frequently described phenomenon is the appearance of a woman in white. Typically standing at the foot of a patient's bed, she seems to watch silently, her form solid enough to be clearly seen, yet she vanishes the moment anyone tries to approach. Some patients describe feeling a mix of fear and comfort during these sightings, a sensation that the figure is both observing and protecting. These mysterious appearances are often fleeting, leaving only a lingering sense of presence in the room after she disappears. The hospital's chapel has long been considered a focal point for unusual activity. Visitors and staff alike report hearing faint chanting, as though prayers from centuries ago still echo in the space. On occasion, some have claimed to see ghostly figures kneeling in silent devotion, their heads bowed in a timeless act of reverence. These sightings often vanish when approached, yet the sound of quiet murmured prayers seems to linger in the air. Even the hospital's hallways and patient rooms hold stories of inexplicable events. Lights flicker unexpectedly, doors open and close on their own, and cold drafts appear in isolated spots, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of being watched. Patients recovering from serious illness have occasionally described the feeling of a presence standing near them, offering silent vigilance as though ensuring their well-being. Some attribute these experiences to the residual energy of decades of care and devotion, a reflection of the tireless work of the nuns who lived and died within the hospital's walls. Hotel Dieu's long history also includes periods of intense suffering. Plagues, epidemics, and wartime injuries brought countless patients through its doors, many of whom did not survive. The stories of those who passed away, and the nuns who cared for them, contribute to the hospital's haunted reputation. It is not merely the architecture or age of the building that unsettles visitors, but the weight of human experience layered over centuries, creating an atmosphere thick with memory and emotion. Paranormal investigators who have visited Hotel D often report recording unusual sounds, unexplained shadows, and fleeting figures. Electronic devices sometimes malfunction or pick up voices that cannot be attributed to any living source. Yet beyond the tangible evidence, many agree that the most compelling sense of the supernatural is intangible, the feeling that the hospital itself remembers, that the devotion and suffering of the past continue to leave traces in the present. Whether it is the apparitions of nuns gliding silently down corridors, or the fleeting presence of the woman in white at the foot of a patient's bed, Hotel Dieu remains a place where history and mystery intersect. Its centuries-old walls are more than stone and mortar. They are vessels of memory, housing echoes of care, devotion, and tragedy. Visitors and staff alike cannot help but sense that the hospital is alive with the past. A place where the line between the living and the dead feels thin, and where the spirits of those who once walked its halls continue to watch over those who remain. The Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Quebec, stands as one of the most chilling and unsettling institutions in Canadian history. Built in the late 19th century as a psychiatric hospital, its beautiful stone architecture and location on the grounds of McGill University once gave it an aura of respectability. But behind its stately exterior lies a story drenched in darkness. To this day, its halls are whispered to be haunted, not only by restless spirits, but also by the echoes of human suffering, particularly from one of the most disturbing scientific programs ever conducted in North America. In the 1950s and 1960s, the Allen Memorial Institute became the site of covert CIA-funded experiments under the infamous MKUltra program, led by Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron. Patients who came seeking help for conditions such as anxiety or depression instead became unwitting test subjects. They were subjected to forced drugging with LSD, prolonged sensory deprivation, and repeated electroshock treatments far beyond what was considered medically safe. Many endured what Cameron called psychic driving, a brutal attempt to erase their personalities and reprogram them through endless recorded messages played while they were restrained. The aim was to control the mind. The result was devastation. Countless patients left the institute broken, many never recovering from what was done to them. The weight of this grim past seems to linger in the atmosphere of the Allen Memorial Institute. Even today, staff and visitors alike speak of strange occurrences within its aging walls. Sudden drops in temperature sweep through certain rooms, icy and unnatural. Disembodied voices have been reported echoing in the empty corridors, soft whispers that seem to come from nowhere, or a faint call for help that fades before it can be traced. Most unsettling of all is the recurring sighting of a figure in a lab coat, often glimpsed in the old experimental wards. Witnesses say he appears briefly in the shadows, standing as though observing, before dissolving into thin air. Some believe this spirit could be Cameron himself, condemned to wander the site of his cruel experiments, while others think it represents the countless doctors who participated in silence. Nurses working the night shift tell of feelings of being watched, especially in the lower levels of the building where many of the experiments once took place. One staff member claimed she was walking past a closed ward when she felt a rush of air at her back, as if someone brushed by her shoulder. But when she turned, the hallway was completely empty. Another described hearing the distinct sound of a typewriter clacking late at night long after the last typewriters had been removed from the building. Former patients who have returned to the institute years later often describe overwhelming dread upon stepping inside. Some report hearing a woman sobbing softly in the distance, only to find no one there. Others speak of the eerie sensation of lying in one of the old patient rooms and feeling pressure at the foot of the bed, as though someone invisible had sat down to watch them. Many are convinced these experiences are the lingering energies of those who suffered in silence, their trauma permanently etched into the walls. The building itself seems to resist peace. Lights flicker unpredictably. Doors that were firmly closed are found open the next morning. Security staff making their rounds occasionally hear footsteps pacing just ahead of them, yet the corridors remain empty. On stormy nights, shadows are said to move against the windows, figures that shouldn't exist in the deserted upper floors. These disturbances aren't limited to those with ties to the hospital. Tourists passing by have reported glimpsing faces in the windows, pale and fleeting, staring down at them from rooms long abandoned. Skeptics argue that the hauntings are simply the result of imagination fueled by the site's notorious history. After all, the MKUltra program has left an indelible scar on Canadian memory, and the building itself is a symbol of betrayal. Institution that was supposed to heal instead became an instrument of torment. Yet the consistency of reports from staff, patients, and outsiders alike keeps the legends alive. Many who enter leave convinced that something beyond explanation still lingers within. What makes the Allen Memorial Institute so terrifying is not just its paranormal reputation, but the undeniable truth of what happened there. Unlike ghost stories born from folklore, the pain in this building is rooted in reality. People truly suffered in its wards, subjected to horrors in the name of science and control. For some, the paranormal activity is simply the manifestation of that suffering, a building remembering the pain it housed. For others, it is the restless souls of those who never found peace after their minds were shattered by the experiments. Today, parts of the Allen Memorial Institute continue to serve medical purposes, though the legacy of its past is never far from mind. To walk its halls is to feel the weight of history pressing in from every direction. For those who believe in spirits, the sightings of nuns, patients, and doctors are reminders that trauma leaves more than scars. It can anchor a soul to the place where it suffered most. Waverly Hospital in Winnipeg, Manitoba, carries with it a chilling reputation that lingers long after its original purpose came to an end. Once a tuberculosis sanatorium, the hospital served as a place of both hope and despair. Tuberculosis was a devastating disease during the early and mid-20th century, and sanatoriums like Waverly were constructed to isolate the sick from the healthy, offering treatments that were rudimentary compared to modern medicine. For many, Waverly Hospital became a final destination rather than a place of healing, and this history has etched a lasting mark on the building's atmosphere. Even today, when the hospital has been long converted into a care facility, people whisper about restless spirits that never left. Visitors often speak of shadowy figures that seem to linger near the windows, their forms flickering against the glass, as if the patients of the past are still looking out, waiting for a day of recovery that never came. The unsettling detail, of course, is that these sightings occur even when the building is locked and empty. Residents nearby sometimes report seeing movement in the upper floors at night, only to discover that no one is inside. Security guards and caretakers tasked with watching the property often admit they dread making rounds alone, particularly after sundown. One of the most disturbing stories connected to Waverly Hospital comes from a caretaker who worked overnight shifts. He described the night when the halls were particularly still, the silence only broken by the faint hum of old radiators. Suddenly, he heard the sound of children laughing echoing from one of the empty corridors. The laughter was light-hearted at first, almost playful. which immediately unsettled him. Since children had not been present in the facility for decades, thinking it might be a trespasser or a prankster, he followed the sound. But as he approached, the cheerful giggles shifted into something darker. The laughter became screams, piercing, desperate cries that seemed to bounce off the walls and shake the air around him. When he reached the hallway where the sounds had been strongest, it was empty. The screams stopped as suddenly as they had started, leaving him shaken and unwilling to finish his shift alone. He later swore he would never again patrol that section of the building at night. Stories like his are not uncommon. Over the years, both staff and visitors have spoken about strange experiences. Cold spots that appear in the middle of otherwise warm rooms are frequently reported, as though unseen presences are drawing the heat away. Doors sometimes creak open on their own, with no logical explanation, and lights flicker in areas with stable wiring. Some who have spent time in the old wards claim they hear faint coughing or labored breathing in the distance, sound eerily reminiscent of the patients who once struggled with tuberculosis. Others speak of feeling watched, an oppressive presence pressing down on them until they are forced to leave. The building's history provides plenty of reasons why spirits might linger. Tuberculosis patients often endured long and painful stays in sanatoriums, with treatments that were experimental and sometimes harsh. Many spent months or even years at Waverly, isolated from their families. For those who died within its walls, it's not hard to imagine that a piece of their suffering remains tied to the place. Some paranormal enthusiasts believe that the residual energy of so much pain and death has created a permanent mark, replaying itself in ghostly sounds and apparitions. In addition to the children's laughter, another recurring tale involves figures seen wandering the halls. Shadows move across walls with no source, and some claim to see fleeting shapes in the corner of their eye. These are often described as gaunt figures in hospital gowns, moving slowly as if still burdened by illness. Others describe a heavier, more malevolent presence, a dark figure that appears at the far end of a hallway and then vanishes when approached. Staff who encounter such things often choose not to talk about them publicly, fearing ridicule, but among themselves, the stories circulate with quiet conviction. Some paranormal investigators who have visited Waverly Hospital report capturing unexplained phenomena. Recordings have picked up faint voices, often whispering or crying. Equipment meant to measure electromagnetic activity has spiked in areas where witnesses had previously seen apparitions. Perhaps the most unsettling accounts come from those who leave the building only to feel as though they have brought something with them, shadows in their homes, nightmares of coughing patients, or the sound of phantom footsteps in their bedrooms at night. Despite its frightening reputation, Waverly Hospital continues to intrigue those interested in the paranormal. The mix of tragic medical history and persistent ghost stories makes it one of Manitoba's most chilling landmarks. While skeptics may dismiss the experiences as tricks of the mind, shadows, or creaky old architecture, those who have spent time within its walls often leave convinced that something lingers. The hospital's past cannot be separated from its present, and perhaps the restless spirits that haunt it are a reminder of the countless lives that ended within. The Plainsview Mental Health Center in Saskatchewan stands as a reminder of an era when psychiatric treatment was often experimental, misunderstood, and, at times, deeply unsettling. Built in the early 20th century, the institution was intended to provide hope for those struggling with mental illness. Over time, though, stories of overcrowding, underfunding, and questionable treatments began to circulate. By the late 20th century, it was officially shut down, its patients relocated, and its long corridors left silent. Yet, silence doesn't always mean peace, and many claim the Plainsview Mental Health Center has never truly been abandoned. Today, the building remains a decaying shell, its windows broken and its walls marked with graffiti. But to those who have stepped inside, the atmosphere is unlike that of any ordinary abandoned structure. Paranormal investigators who have explored the grounds report capturing strange phenomena. Whispering voices have been recorded on EVP devices, sometimes speaking in short, fragmented sentences. other times muttering indistinctly as though conversations were still taking place in the empty wards. Some of these recordings even seem to respond directly to questions, fueling the belief that lingering spirits remain. One of the most unsettling reports involves the recurring vision of a nurse in a white cap. Witnesses say she appears suddenly, most often in the hallways, and just as quickly vanishes around a corner, leaving those who follow with nothing but a chill and the echo of their own footsteps. Some speculate that she is the spirit of a former nurse who worked tirelessly in life and continues her rounds even in death. Others wonder if she represents the trauma of the patients who once feared the very people meant to care for them. Urban explorers who enter the facility often describe the same chilling sensation, the feeling of being watched. Many report pausing in the middle of an abandoned corridor, only to feel eyes on them from above, as though unseen figures peered down from the darkened windows. Some explorers have even claimed to see shapes moving past the windows when viewed from outside, despite the upper floors being inaccessible or blocked off. One local group of thrill-seekers recalled sneaking into the center on a cold autumn night. As they walked through the long, decaying hallways, their flashlights caught glimpses of peeling paint and rusting bed frames, but it wasn't the sight of decay that unnerved them. It was the sound of soft footsteps that echoed just behind them, though no one else was there. At one point, they swore they heard the quiet rattle of medical carts being pushed down the hall. When they turned, the corridor was empty. Terrified, they ran, but even as they left the building, one swore they saw a figure in white standing at a window, watching them leave. Legends have grown over the years, spreading through the community and beyond. Some locals believe the spirits at Plainsview are restless patients who endured treatments that left deep scars on both body and mind. Electroshock therapy, isolation rooms, and Plainsview may hold decades of fear, sadness, and confusion within its crumbling walls. Others suggest the nurse who appears is not a solitary spirit, but rather a manifestation of the institution itself, a kind of guardian tied to the building's energy. Those who claim to have seen her describe the same details. Her uniform perfectly white, her steps quiet but purposeful, her presence lasting only long enough to remind visitors that they are trespassing in a place still occupied by the echoes of its past. In recent years, paranormal teams from across Canada have made Plainsview a target for investigation. Many leave with recordings of unexplained whispers, cold spots that drop the temperature by several degrees in seconds, or photos where strange shadows appear. Skeptics argue that the building's atmosphere's darkness, decay, and history makes people more susceptible to fear and suggestion. But even skeptics often admit that Plainsview feels different from other abandoned sites. For the locals in Saskatchewan, the Plainsview Mental Health Center is more than just a piece of derelict architecture. It is a reminder of a complicated history, of patients who were once tucked away from society, and of a place where hope and suffering collided. Whether the stories of spirits are true or not, the building has taken on a life of its own in the realm of folklore and legend. To walk its halls is to feel the weight of history pressing in. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind rattling broken windows, feels like a whisper from the past. And for those who claim to have seen the nurse in white or heard voices in the empty corridors, Plainsview is not just a relic of history, but a place where the past refuses to rest quietly. The Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital in Toronto, Ontario, is a building that seems to exist between the past and the present, where history and horror intertwine. Established in 1894, the hospital quickly grew to accommodate an ever-increasing number of patients, many of whom suffered from severe mental illnesses. Its Gothic architecture, with looming spires, shadowed archways, and long, narrow hallways, gives it the appearance of something lifted straight from a horror story. The aesthetic alone is enough to unsettle visitors, but the building's dark history adds layers of fear that have persisted for over a century. From its earliest days, Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital was plagued by overcrowding and underfunding. Patients often found themselves confined in small, cold rooms with minimal contact with the outside world. Isolation was a common form of treatment, and doctors of the era employed methods that today would be considered cruel. Electroshock therapy, physical restraints, and other primitive techniques were standard practice, leaving many patients traumatized and broken. Deaths were frequent, whether from illness, despair, or complications from harsh treatments. Over time, the walls of the hospital absorbed countless stories of suffering, fear, and hopelessness. Even after the hospital ceased to operate, reports of ghostly activity persisted. Those who have visited the building often recount hearing screams echoing through empty halls at night. The sounds are described as sharp, desperate, and heart-wrenching, as if the pain of former patients still resonates within the stone walls. Doors, or another source of unease, heavy wooden doors, are said to slam shut on their own, sometimes with enough force to startle anyone in the vicinity. Some claim the doors swing open just as mysteriously, allowing glimpses of dark hallways that seem to stretch endlessly. Perhaps the most chilling stories involve sightings of a woman in a hospital gown. Witnesses describe her as pale, her face indistinct, with an aura of sorrow surrounding her. She appears suddenly, often at the end of a hallway or standing near a doorway. Those brave enough to approach her report that she vanishes before they can reach her, leaving only the lingering feeling of having witnessed something profoundly unsettling. Some speculate that she is a former patient, trapped in the hospital by the trauma she endured during her life. Others believe she may represent all the patients who suffered and died within Lakeshore. A single spirit embodying decades of pain. Staff and visitors alike often describe the sensation of being watched, even when alone. Footsteps echo through hallways where no one is present, and cold drafts sweep down corridors, freezing rooms that should otherwise be warm. Some paranormal investigators have recorded faint whispers on electronic devices, voices that seem to respond to questions or echo distressingly from the past. Flickering lights, shadows moving against walls, and objects that shift inexplicably all contribute to the hospital's reputation as one of Toronto's most haunted locations. Stories from those who spent time inside the hospital during its operational years add to its chilling legacy. Former nurses and attendants have recounted the eerie feeling of someone following them in the empty wards. Patients reportedly spoke of seeing figures in the corner of their rooms, figures that disappeared whenever they were observed directly. One nurse recounted walking down a hallway late at night, when she felt a sudden presence behind her. Turning around, she saw no one, yet she felt as though a hand had grazed her shoulder. Experiences like these were often dismissed as stress or exhaustion at the time, but they now contribute to the haunting narrative surrounding Lakeshore. The hospital's Gothic design seems to amplify the unsettling atmosphere. Arched ceilings, narrow staircases, and shadowed corridors create spaces where imagination and memory blend, making it easy for the mind to play tricks on anyone who enters. Windows overlook overgrown grounds, and the sounds of wind through the broken glass are said to resemble whispers, almost like the voices of the past are carried on the air. At night, the shadows deepen, and the building takes on a presence of its own, as if it remembers everything that has occurred within its walls. Paranormal investigators have frequently visited Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital, citing it as one of the most active sites in Ontario. They report sudden spikes in temperature, unexplained electronic disturbances, and the feeling of being touched or followed by invisible hands. Many recordings capture sounds of faint laughter or sobbing, sometimes layered over the creaking of floorboards, creating the impression that the past is playing itself out continuously. The consistent reports of similar phenomena across decades have convinced many that the hospital is more than just an abandoned building. It is a repository of lingering spirits and unresolved pain. Even today, locals avoid the old site after dark, claiming that the building exudes an aura of dread. Urban explorers and thrill seekers who dare to enter frequently leave shaken. Their accounts speaking of shadowy figures, sudden chills, and an overwhelming feeling of despair. The combination of the hospital's dark history, its architectural gloom, and persistent reports of paranormal activity ensures that Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital remains a place where fear and fascination converge. The legacy of Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital is a testament to both the human capacity for resilience and the horrors of outdated mental health treatment. The spirits said to haunt its halls are not merely figments of imagination. They are reminders of lives affected by isolation, pain, and misunderstanding. Ghostly screams, vanishing figures, and the sensation of being watched all serve as echoes of a past that refuses to rest. For those who enter its corridors, the experience is more than chilling. It is an encounter with the lingering weight of history itself, a place where the shadows of human suffering have left a permanent mark. Even now, the Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital stands as a Gothic monument to sorrow, a building where the veil between the living and the dead feels thin. The cries of past patients, the slamming doors, and the ghostly apparitions of nurses and patients alike all contribute to its reputation as one of Canada's most haunted institutions. It is a place where history, memory, and the supernatural merge, leaving visitors with the unmistakable sense that Lakeshore has not yet given up all of its secrets. The Battleford Industrial School and Hospital in Saskatchewan stands as a haunting testament to Canada's complex and painful history. Originally built as a residential school for Indigenous children, it later became a hospital, but the building's walls carry the weight of decades of suffering and sorrow. Its history is not one of healing or comfort alone. It is layered with tragedy, injustice, and human endurance. From its early days as a residential school to its years operating as a hospital, Battleford has been a place where countless lives were profoundly impacted, and many believe that some of those lives never truly left. The residential school era in Canada is remembered for the forced removal of Indigenous children from their families, often sent far from their homes under the guise of education. At Battleford, children endured harsh discipline, isolation, and cultural suppression. Generations suffered from neglect and abuse, and for many, the memories of those experiences were never reconciled. Later, when the building transitioned into a hospital, it became a center for treatment, but not all patients left in better health. Many remained in a state of suffering due to illness or the outdated and experimental treatments administered over the decades. Together, these layers of pain have left an indelible mark on the property, a weight that some say can still be felt today. Those who have visited the site report experiences that are as unsettling as the history itself. One of the most commonly described phenomena is the sighting of ghostly children running through the hallways. Witnesses describe small, fleeting figures darting past doors or along corridors, their forms often disappearing before anyone can approach. These apparitions are sometimes accompanied by the sound of footsteps or distant laughter sounds that evoke both innocence and a haunting sense of sorrow. Some visitors claim that children seem lost, endlessly wandering the spaces where they once lived and suffered. In addition to the spectral children, there are frequent reports of cold spots that appear without warning. Hallways that should be warm or neutral suddenly drop several degrees, producing an unnatural chill. These cold areas are often accompanied by a sense of being watched, a heaviness in the air that presses down on anyone who passes through. Some say the temperature drops mark the presence of spirits lingering close by, their energy palpable to the living. Shadows moving against the light are another phenomenon reported repeatedly at Battleford. Observers have described dark shapes gliding across walls, often at the edge of their vision. When they turn to look directly, the shadows vanish, leaving only empty hallways and the echo of the past. These fleeting figures are sometimes thought to represent both the children who suffered at the residential school and the patients who spent their lives in the hospital. In some cases, staff and visitors alike report seeing figures standing silently at the ends of corridors or near doorways, their presence pressing upon the senses in a way that is difficult to describe. Elders from local Indigenous communities have long spoken about the unrest of spirits within the building. They say that many of the souls of the children and patients remain unsettled because their stories were never told and their suffering never acknowledged. These spirits, according to oral histories, carry the weight of their trauma, unable to find peace. Community members believe that the energy in the building is a reminder of both the personal and collective injustices experienced there, haunting that cannot be ignored. Paranormal investigators who have entered the Battleford Industrial School and Hospital report a variety of strange occurrences. Electronic devices malfunction inexplicably, and audio recordings frequently capture voices or whispers that were not audible at the time of recording. Some investigators have photographed unexplained figures or anomalies, and others describe sudden sensations of pressure, as though invisible hands or eyes are observing them. Many of these phenomena are concentrated in areas once used for the residential school's dormitories and classrooms, or in the hospital's wards, where patients were treated. Visitors also report a lingering sense of sorrow, even when no visible apparitions are present. Walking through the hallways, one cannot help but feel the weight of the countless lives that intersected there. Some claim to hear faint crying, often interwoven with the occasional sound of doors creaking or floorboards groaning under invisible weight. The combination of history, architecture, and lingering energy creates an atmosphere that is uniquely oppressive and haunting. Some local stories describe encounters in which the children appear to attempt interaction, fleetingly reaching toward observers or playing in ways that suggest both playfulness and desperation. Meanwhile, shadows in the hospital wings are sometimes described as moving independently, reflecting anger or anguish, as if echoing the pain of decades of mistreatment and illness. Those who experience these phenomena often leave the building shaken, convinced that the spirits have not moved on. The Battleford Industrial School and Hospital is more than a relic. It is a repository of memory and unresolved grief. The building itself bears witness to the suffering endured by indigenous children, by patients, and by the caretakers and staff who experienced life inside its walls. Its stories are woven into the very structure of the property, leaving an energy that can be sensed by those sensitive to the past. Even after decades of closure, the building continues to draw both curiosity seekers and those intent on documenting paranormal activity. The site stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of systemic oppression and outdated medical practices. For many, the hauntings are not merely paranormal, they are echoes of history, lessons left in shadow and cold spots, voices that demand to be heard. Those who visit the Battleford Industrial School and Hospital often leave with a mixture of awe and unease. The ghostly children, moving shadows, sudden chills, and lingering sorrow create an environment where the living feel the weight of the past pressing upon them. The building is not just abandoned. It is inhabited by memory, pain, and spirits that have yet to find rest. For those willing to face its haunting, Battleford offers an unforgettable, chilling reminder that some histories are never truly buried. They continue to live on in the echoes of the places where they occurred. The Waterford Hospital in St. John's, Newfoundland, is one of Canada's oldest psychiatric institutions, with a history stretching back to 1855. For over a century and a half, its walls have housed generations of patients. However, alongside the medical care provided, the hospital has also been a site of mistreatment and hardship. The early years of psychiatric care were often harsh, with patients subjected to isolation, restraint, and primitive treatments that would be considered cruel by today's standards. Over time, these experiences have left an indelible mark on the building, a residue of human suffering that many claim has manifested in unusual and unsettling ways. Even today, Waterford Hospital is renowned not just for its history, but for its paranormal reputation. Staff members frequently report hearing voices calling their names when no one else is present. These voices are sometimes faint, barely above a whisper, and at other times startlingly clear, echoing through empty hallways. Nurses and orderlies working late night or overnight shifts have recounted instances where they felt a presence standing just behind them, or caught movement from the corner of their eye that disappears when looked at directly. Many employees admit that working alone at night can be unnerving, and some refuse entirely to take late shifts in certain wings of the hospital. In addition to auditory phenomena, there are frequent reports of objects moving inexplicably. Chairs have been found shifted from their original positions. Doors that were firmly closed swing open on their own. And medical equipment sometimes behaves as though touched by invisible hands. These occurrences are sporadic but persistent enough to have become part of the hospital's lore. Visitors and new staff members are often warned of the building's unique energy. And those who have spent any length of time there describe a palpable feeling that the hospital is alive in ways that go beyond its operational functions. Patients long since passed are said to leave their presence in subtle but unmistakable ways. Some corridors seem to hum with faint energy, while certain rooms carry a heavy feeling, as if the walls themselves remember the pain and struggles endured within. Staff members have reported feeling watched in empty wards, hearing soft footsteps behind them, or sensing an unseen presence while performing routine duties. One particularly chilling account involved a nurse who, while checking on a locked ward, felt a sudden coldness at her back, accompanied by the sound of a faint voice whispering her name. When she turned, there was no one there. But she later found the ward's door slightly ajar, even though she was certain it had been locked. The hospital's history contributes significantly to its eerie reputation. In its early years, treatments were experimental and often inhumane, ranging from prolonged isolation to electroshock therapy and chemical restraint. Patients were sometimes kept in locked rooms for extended periods, and many suffered from neglect or abuse. Over the decades, countless individuals passed away within its walls, and some staff believe that the lingering presence of these patients has never truly left. The combination of human suffering, prolonged confinement, and historical trauma has created a dense atmosphere of residual energy that some claim is detectable to the sensitive or the observant. Visitors to Waterford Hospital often remark on the building's oppressive and uneasy feeling, even in well-lit areas. The Gothic architecture, long corridors, and aged interior contribute to the sensation of being watched or followed. Those who explore the abandoned wings or lesser-used areas report cold drafts that seem localized, sudden temperature drops, and shadows that move against the natural flow of light. Many paranormal investigators have visited the hospital and recorded unexplained sounds on audio devices. Nurses working overnight shifts frequently describe instances that defy explanation. One recounted walking down a dimly lit hallway when she heard a door creak behind her. Turning, she saw nothing, but moments later, a chair she had left nearby had shifted several feet away. Another described hearing soft, rhythmic tapping on the walls, like someone walking slowly along the corridor, only to find the hall empty when she investigated. The persistence of these experiences has led many to accept them as part of working in the hospitalist's unique environment, while others find them terrifying and unavoidable. While skeptics argue that fatigue, imagination, and the age of the building account for these phenomena, those who have spent extended time within Waterford Hospital insist that something beyond explanation persists. The combination of the hospital's history, the energy of generations of patients, and the unusual occurrences reported by staff and visitors suggest a presence that is both tangible and deeply unsettling. The hospital has, over time, become more than a place of medical care. It is a repository of memory, trauma, and perhaps even lingering spirits. Waterford Hospital's reputation as one of Canada's most haunted psychiatric institutions is supported not only by anecdotal stories, but by the consistency of reports spanning decades. The voices, footsteps, moving objects, and cold spots are repeated phenomena experienced by multiple generations of staff. Even those unfamiliar with its history often feel an instinctive unease when inside the hospital, a sense that the building remembers, that it holds echoes of the people who suffered within its walls. The legacy of Waterford Hospital is a complex blend of history and mystery. It stands as a monument to the evolution of psychiatric care in Canada, a place where hope and suffering existed side by side. At the same time, the persistent reports of paranormal activity remind us that trauma can leave more than just historical records. It can leave an imprint on the spaces where it occurred. For those who enter its halls, the Waterford Hospital is more than a building. It is a living repository of memories, voices, and shadows that continue to linger long after the patients and staff have gone. The North Battleford Mental Health Center in Saskatchewan is a site that carries with it decades of history, human suffering, and countless stories that linger long after its doors closed. Established in the early 20th century, The facility was once home to thousands of patients, many of whom struggled with severe mental illnesses. Like many asylums of the era, it was overcrowded, underfunded, and often unable to provide the level of care that patients desperately needed. Isolation rooms, restraints, and experimental treatments were common, and countless individuals passed through its halls without ever leaving again. The building, with its long corridors and looming architecture, now stands as a haunting reminder of both the evolution of mental health care and the pain endured within its walls. Those who have visited North Battleford often report an atmosphere thick with tension and unease. Paranormal investigators and urban explorers alike describe feeling watched, even when the halls are empty. Footsteps echo through corridors where no one is present. Doors creak open or slam shut of their own accord, and cold spots appear suddenly, chilling the air in isolated rooms. Many visitors describe the sensation of being followed, as if unseen eyes track their every movement, lending credence to the idea that the spirits of former patients remain tethered to the building. Perhaps the most frequently reported phenomenon involves ghostly apparitions wandering the old wards. Witnesses describe shadowy figures moving aimlessly, sometimes sitting on decaying bed frames or standing silently in doorways. The figures are often fleeting, disappearing when approached, yet their presence is undeniable. Some appear distressed, as though replaying moments of confusion, fear, or despair from their lives. Staff and visitors have claimed to see patients in tattered clothing from decades past, wandering the hallways in a state of limbo. One of the most famous legends of North Battleford involves a woman who appears sobbing in the stairwell. Those who have encountered her describe a figure dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her face streaked with invisible tears. Her sobs echo down the stairs, creating a haunting sound that resonates through the building. Many have tried to approach her to offer comfort, only for her to vanish before they can reach her. Some believe she represents a patient who endured immense suffering, unable to find peace even in death. Others suggest she may embody the collective sorrow of the many patients who experienced neglect, mistreatment, or despair while housed at the facility. The hospital's history is inseparable from its hauntings. During its years of operation, patients endured long periods of confinement, outdated medical practices, and treatments that often caused more harm than healing. Overcrowding and limited resources exacerbated the suffering, leaving many individuals with unaddressed physical and mental health issues. The sheer number of lives touched by the institution, combined with the intense emotional experiences of its patients, seems to have left a lasting imprint on the building itself. Visitors often speak of sudden temperature drops in specific areas, particularly near the old wards and stairwells. Cold drafts appear in isolated spots, accompanied by an oppressive feeling of unease. Some report hearing whispers or faint voices calling out, as if former patients are trying to communicate or express their lingering pain. These sounds are described as fleeting, sometimes almost conversational, yet impossible to locate, adding to the building's eerie reputation. The architecture of North Battleford also contributes to its haunting presence. The stairwells, in particular, have become associated with paranormal activity, with multiple reports of unexplained noises, ghostly figures, and that iconic sobbing woman. Even in daylight, the building exudes a sense of melancholy, as if the walls themselves remember the countless moments of despair experienced within. Paranormal investigators who have spent extended periods within the facility often report capturing unexplained phenomena on camera or audio equipment. Shadowy figures appear in photographs where no one is present, and electronic voice phenomena frequently pick up whispers or cries that cannot be attributed to the living. Investigators describe feeling sudden chills, the sensation of being touched by unseen hands, or the presence of figures moving just beyond their field of vision. Many who explore the building agree that the energy is distinct, heavy, and unlike that of any ordinary abandoned structure. Staff and visitors alike have recounted stories of sudden emotional heaviness while in certain parts of the hospital. Some describe an overwhelming sense of sadness, while others feel inexplicably anxious or frightened. These experiences are often concentrated in the old wards, stairwells, and areas that once housed patients during periods of crisis. The combination of history, human suffering, and residual energy has cemented North Battleford Mental Health Center as one of Canada's most haunted psychiatric facilities. For those who dare to walk its halls, the hospital is a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring impact of trauma. The ghostly apparitions, phantom footsteps, unexplained noises, and cold spots all serve as evidence that North Battleford is far from empty. The sobbing woman in the stairwell has become a symbol of the institution's legogia, reminder that sorrow and suffering can linger long after a building's doors are closed. North Battleford Mental Health Center is more than a relic of history. It is a repository of human emotion, memory, and lingering spirits. Its stories are preserved not only in historical records, but in the experiences of those who enter its halls and encounter the echoes of the past. The building stands as a testament to both the dark chapters of mental health care and the resilience of the human spirit, a place where the voices of former patients continue to whisper. Footsteps of the past continue to echo, and sorrow remains ever present. The Old Grace Hospital in Winnipeg, Manitoba, is a building where history and the supernatural seem to intertwine, leaving a lingering sense of unease for all who enter. Originally operated by the Salvation Army, Grace Hospital served generations of patients over decades, providing care in a time when medical practices were often harsh, and the demand for healthcare frequently outpaced available resources. While the hospital eventually closed as a medical facility and was converted into a seniors' residence, many believed that the spirits of the past never left, continuing to roam the hallways and corridors of the old building. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves a nun-like figure, often seen wandering the halls. Staff and residents describe her as dressed in the traditional habit of the Salvation Army nurses, who once worked at the hospital, moving silently and deliberately through the building. Some encounters suggest she is observing, while others portray her performing gestures of care, as if still tending to patients long after her death. Those who see her often report a sense of calm, mixed with unease, a feeling that she is both protective and unreachable. Attempts to follow or interact with her are usually unsuccessful. The figure disappears around corners or into empty rooms, leaving behind only a faint sense of presence. The elevators in the building are another source of unexplained activity. Residents and staff have reported that the elevators sometimes move on their own, opening at floors where no one has called them. When the doors open, they reveal empty hallways, sometimes accompanied by a sudden rush of cold air. Those brave enough to step out rarely see anything, but the experience leaves an eerie impression, a reminder that the building may still be inhabited by unseen forces. The feeling intensified by the dim lighting and long corridors that characterize the old hospital's architecture. Operating for decades under the Salvation Army, Grace Hospital was a place where staff often faced long shifts, limited resources, and patients with serious illnesses. The combination of high stress, human suffering, and the intensity of the work appears to have left a lasting energy within the building. Stories of ghosts and unusual phenomena are particularly concentrated in areas that were once patient wards, suggesting that the residual energy is tied to the building's past function. Residents living in the converted seniors' residence frequently report odd experiences, or the faint sound of a nurse's voice calling a patient's name. Others describe doors opening and closing on their own, or lights flickering inexplicably. Even mundane tasks, such as walking down a hallway, can provoke an unsettling feeling, as though someone or something is accompanying them, unseen. Visitors often remark on the atmosphere of the building, noting an unusual heaviness in certain areas that is difficult to explain. The nun-like apparition is not the only spirit reportedly seen in the building. Some individuals have described shadowy figures flitting just beyond the edges of their vision, as well as fleeting glimpses of former patients who seem to wander aimlessly. These sightings are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature or a sense of unease that intensifies in isolated parts of the building. Staff have learned to accept these occurrences as part of life in the residence. Several paranormal investigators have visited the Old Grace Hospital, drawn by the consistency of reports from staff and residents. Many have recorded unexplained audio, including whispers, distant footsteps, and low murmurs that cannot be attributed to any living source. Some investigators have captured fleeting images on camera, shadowy figures or shapes that vanish when approached. Others report the sensation of being touched or followed, particularly near old patient wards and stairwells. While skeptics attribute some phenomena to fatigue, the sheer volume of consistent reports over decades lends credence to the idea that the hospital is more than just a structure. It is a vessel for lingering energy. The building's architecture itself amplifies the eerie atmosphere. Long, narrow hallways, high ceilings, and hidden corners create spaces where shadows stretch unnaturally and sounds carry in strange ways. The dim lighting in the converted residence, combined with the original hospital layout, residents often describe feeling sudden chills, hearing unexplained noises, or glimpsing movements that vanish when focused on directly. These sensations are particularly strong at night, when the corridors are empty and the building's history feels most present. Even with its conversion into a residence, the old Grace Hospital remains tied to its past. The stories of patients and nurses who spent decades within its walls seem to echo across time, and the reported paranormal activity suggests that some of these echoes persist. Whether it is the nun gliding silently through the halls, the elevator doors opening to reveal empty floors, or the cold drafts that appear without explanation, the building retains a connection to the lives and experiences it once housed. For those who enter the old Grace Hospital, the experience is a mix of awe and trepidation, and the lingering presence of spirits adds a chilling dimension to the otherwise peaceful residence. The building stands as a reminder that even when the purpose of a place changes, the memories and, perhaps the souls of those who once inhabited it can endure. The old Grace Hospital is more than a converted facility. It is a living monument to its past, where echoes of care, sorrow, and unexplained phenomena continue to resonate in the present, quietly watching over all who walk its hallways. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Prince Edward Island is a modern medical facility, equipped with state-of-the-art technology and a reputation for excellent patient care. Yet despite its contemporary renovations and bright, clean hallways, the hospital has a reputation that is far older than its walls suggest. For years, both staff and patients have reported encounters with a mysterious presence, a little boy in striped pajamas who appears suddenly, moves quickly, and then vanishes without a trace. The stories are consistent, intriguing, and unnerving, giving the hospital an air of mystery that contrasts sharply with its clinical atmosphere. The boy is most often seen darting across hallways or peeking into patient rooms. Staff have described him as small, perhaps no older than 7 or 8, with dark hair and a pale complexion. His striped pajamas stand out vividly, a detail that has been reported by multiple witnesses independently. Many of these encounters happen in the evening or late at night, when the hospital is quieter and hallways are largely empty. Some staff say they have seen him move quickly down corridors, disappearing into corners or behind doors in ways that make it impossible to follow him. Patients, too, have reported unusual experiences. Some describe waking up to see the boy standing at the foot of their bed, only to find the room empty moments later. Others hear the sound of small footsteps running past their room or the faint giggle of a child when no one else is present. In many cases, these encounters leave an impression of both innocence and unease. The boy does not appear threatening, yet the suddenness of his presence, coupled with the knowledge that no one else is nearby, creates a palpable sense of tension. Staff members who have worked night shifts frequently recount seeing the boy along the corridors. Nurses, orderly staff, and security personnel describe catching glimpses of movement out of the corner of their eye, or noticing the faint outline of a small figure standing in the hallway. When approached, the figure invariably disappears, sometimes blending seamlessly into shadows or vanishing around corners. Some employees have learned to accept the phenomenon as part of life at the hospital, though new staff often find the experiences frightening and disorienting. The boy's presence seems to have no consistent pattern. appearing in different wings of the hospital and at varying times. Some have speculated that he is a lingering spirit connected to the hospital's past. Though Queen Elizabeth Hospital has undergone modern renovations, it has existed in some form for decades, and the stories of the boy predate the current building. Oral histories from longtime staff suggest that the hospital has always had an air of mystery, with reports of unexplained occurrences and strange sounds stretching back generations. The boy in striped pajamas may be the most visible manifestation of this lingering presence. Many who have seen the boy describe a mix of emotions during the encounter. Some feel a fleeting sense of sadness or melancholy, as if the child is searching for someone or something. Others report a curious calm, a feeling that the boy's appearance is not malevolent, but instead a quiet echo of past events. The combination of innocence and mystery in these sightings creates a unique tension, one that draws attention from paranormal enthusiasts, as well as staff who have lived through multiple encounters. The hallways themselves seem to play a role in these experiences. Long, narrow corridors, fluorescent lighting, and occasional shadows provide an environment where the mind is already alert, and any movement can be startling. Many staff admit that working alone at night increases the likelihood of seeing the boy. Security cameras have occasionally captured unexplained movements, though the footage often lacks the clarity to identify the figure definitively. Still, the consistent reports from different witnesses lend credibility to the idea that something unusual is occurring. The story of the boy in striped pajamas is often shared quietly among staff, sometimes with a mixture of humor and apprehension. Experienced nurses pass along warnings to newcomers. Don't be startled if you see a small figure running down the hallway, and remember that he tends to vanish quickly. While some dismiss the encounters as imagination or fatigue, others accept them as genuine experiences that are part of the hospital's unique history and atmosphere. Visitors and patients have also contributed to the hospital's reputation. Families who stay overnight often recount seeing the boy in empty hallways, or noticing small movements out of the corner of their eye. Some report hearing soft laughter or footsteps that stop abruptly when investigated. Though these encounters are fleeting, they leave a lasting impression and reinforce the idea that the hospital holds more than just memories of medical care. It also holds echoes of past lives and lingering spirits. Despite its modern appearance, Queen Elizabeth Hospital continues to fascinate both staff and visitors alike. The presence of the little boy in striped pajamas is a reminder that history and memory can leave traces that endure, even in a contemporary setting. His appearances, whether playful, haunting, or simply curious, provide a glimpse into the hospital's past and the unseen energies that seem to inhabit its hallways. For those who work or stay at the hospital, the boy is a quiet, persistent presence. He embodies both innocence and mystery, a reminder that some places retain echoes of their past. Whether interpreted as a spirit, a memory, or an unexplained phenomenon, the little boy in striped pajamas continues to be a source of intrigue, fear, and fascination at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, a place where the living and the unseen seem to coexist in a delicate and haunting balance. The Old Civic Hospital in Ottawa, Ontario, is a building steeped in history, both medical and paranormal. For decades, it served as a central hub for healthcare in the region, treating countless patients and witnessing the full spectrum of human suffering and recovery. Over time, however, the hospital developed a reputation that goes beyond its role as a medical facility. Tales of ghostly apparitions, unexplained phenomena, and strange occurrences have become part of the lore surrounding the old institution, making it one of the most talked about haunted hospitals in Canada. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of a woman in a blood-stained gown. Witnesses describe her appearing in the emergency ward, her presence sudden and startling. She is often seen walking slowly through the halls or standing in corners, her expression a mixture of despair and determination. Those who encounter her report an intense feeling of sorrow and unease, as if she is reliving moments of trauma from her past. The most unsettling aspect of these sightings is that she never interacts with anyone. she simply fades into nothingness, leaving behind an eerie silence and an unmistakable sense of loss. Security staff and hospital employees frequently report unusual activity, particularly in areas that are no longer in use. Alarms often go off in locked rooms with no apparent cause, prompting staff to investigate. Upon entering, they find the rooms empty, yet the air is described as unnaturally cold, heavy, with an almost tangible presence. Some security personnel recount hearing footsteps echoing down hallways or the faint sound of a voice whispering in empty rooms. These experiences are often fleeting but leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the idea that the hospital is far from empty, despite its operational changes over the years. The history of the old civic hospital contributes significantly to its haunted reputation. During its years of operation, the hospital treated patients under conditions that were, by today's standards, often harsh and demanding. Long hours, crowded wards, and the constant presence of illness created an environment charged with human emotion. Many patients experienced severe suffering or died within the building, and some staff believe that these intense emotions have left a residual imprint on the hospital itself. The combination of human trauma and decades of medical care appears to have created an environment where unexplained phenomena can occur. Staff members who have worked overnight shifts often report seeing figures out of the corner of their eye or experiencing sudden drops in temperature. Some describe the sensation of being followed, only to find no one present when they turn. Nurses and orderlies have recounted instances where medical equipment seems to move on its own. Doors open and close unexpectedly, and lights flicker without explanation. These occurrences are not isolated. Multiple employees have shared similar experiences, suggesting that the hospital holds a persistent and palpable energy. Patients themselves have occasionally reported ghostly encounters. Some describe seeing fleeting shadows in hallways or hearing footsteps in empty wards. Others have felt the presence of someone standing near them, only to find no one when they turn. One recurring theme is the sense of sorrow or despair that accompanies these experiences, particularly in areas where critical care or emergency treatment took place. Witnesses often describe a heavy, oppressive atmosphere that seems to cling to the walls, a residual energy that is difficult to shake even after leaving the building. The woman in the bloodstained gown is particularly associated with the emergency ward, where the intensity of past events is most concentrated. Witnesses describe her as almost spectral, her figure partially transparent, yet vivid enough to be unmistakable. The sight of her often comes with a sudden chill in the air, a feeling of being watched, and an emotional heaviness that is hard to ignore. Attempts to approach her are futile. She disappears when someone gets too close, leaving only the echo of her presence in the minds of those who saw her. Paranormal investigators who have visited the hospital report similar phenomena. Audio recordings sometimes capture unexplained whispers or voices, and cameras occasionally pick up shadowy forms moving in empty rooms. Temperature anomalies are commonly recorded, with sudden drops occurring in areas where no vents or drafts exist. Many investigators suggest that the combination of human emotion, trauma, and the long history of care and death within the hospital has created a lingering energy that manifests in visible and audible ways. Even in the renovated sections of the hospital, the stories persist. Employees report feeling uneasy in certain areas, describing sensations of being observed or followed. Equipment sometimes behaves oddly, alarms trigger for no apparent reason, and fleeting figures are seen moving along hallways. For visitors and staff alike, the building feels alive in ways that defy explanation, a place where the past and present intersect in the most unsettling of ways. The old civic hospital serves as a stark reminder of the thin line between life and death, memory and reality. The woman in the blood-stained gown, the unexplained alarms, and the cold spots all point to the idea that the building is more than just brick and mortar. It is a vessel for the experiences of countless people who pass through its halls, whether seen as ghosts, residual energy, or unexplained phenomena. These manifestations continue to capture the attention of staff, patients, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. For those who enter the old civic hospital, the encounters are often brief but unforgettable. The sight of a ghostly figure, the sudden chill of a room, or the inexplicable movement of alarms serves as a reminder that the building's past is never truly gone. The hospital remains a place where the echoes of human experience persist, a place where sorrow, trauma, and mystery coexist in a haunting balance. It is this combination of history, tragedy, and unexplained phenomena that makes the old civic hospital a location that continues to fascinate, terrify, and intrigue anyone who walks its corridors. The Brandon Mental Health Center in Manitoba, which first opened its doors in 1891, stands as one of Canada's most notorious psychiatric institutions, both for its long history of treatment and its eerie reputation for paranormal activity. Over the decades, thousands of patients passed through its halls, many of whom endured harsh and outdated treatments that were considered standard for the time, but are now seen as cruel and inhumane. Like many asylums of its era, Brandon Mental Health Center became overcrowded and underfunded, leaving patients vulnerable to neglect and suffering. These conditions, combined with decades of intense human emotion, pain, and fear, have contributed to the building's reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the country. Visitors to the center often report an overwhelming sense of unease, a feeling that the building itself is alive with memories of the past. Doors frequently open and close on their own, sometimes accompanied by loud slams that echo through the empty corridors. Staff and paranormal investigators alike have reported walking into rooms to find them exactly as they left them only moments before. Yet the doors have moved, as if pushed by invisible hands. These unexplained movements are concentrated in the old wings of the building, areas that were once patient wards and treatment rooms. Many believe that the residual energy from the suffering and trauma of those who once lived there is responsible for these mysterious phenomena. Phantom nurses are another frequently reported apparition within Brandon Mental Health Center. Witnesses describe figures dressed in early 20th century nursing uniforms, moving purposefully along hallways or performing unseen tasks. Some are seen attending to empty beds, while others seem to glide silently past staff and visitors without acknowledgement. These apparitions often appear in the dimly lit corridors, their presence fleeting yet unmistakable. Many who have encountered them describe a sudden chill in the air, followed by an unsettling sense that the spirits are observing, judging, or replaying events from their lives. One of the most chilling phenomena reported in the building is the sound of screams coming from empty wings. These screams are often described as anguished and desperate, echoing down hallways that are otherwise silent. When the hospital is quiet and few people are present, the cries seem to have no identifiable source, and they vanish as quickly as they appear. Some interpret these sounds as echoes of past trauma, the lingering pain of patients who suffered within the walls of the institution. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Brandon Mental Health Center due to the consistency and intensity of reported activity. Using audio and visual recording equipment, many have captured unexplained shadows, fleeting figures, and strange sounds that cannot be attributed to normal causes. Electronic voice phenomena, EVP, have occasionally recorded faint voices or whispers calling out in empty corridors. Temperature anomalies are also common, with investigators experiencing sudden drops in room temperature in locations where no drafts or vents exist. These occurrences contribute to the building's reputation as having one of the darkest and most intense atmospheres in Canada. The architecture of Brandon Mental Health Center amplifies the unsettling feeling experienced by visitors. Long, narrow hallways, high ceilings, and shadowed corners create spaces where light behaves oddly, and shadows stretch unnaturally. The older wings, in particular, retain the original design of the asylum, including heavy wooden doors, iron bed frames, and peeling paint, creating an environment where it is easy to imagine the echoes of the past coming to life. The combination of physical decay and historical trauma makes the building a magnet for paranormal activity. Many staff members, particularly those who work night shifts, describe experiences that defy explanation. Some have reported hearing footsteps following them down empty hallways, while others feel an invisible presence brushing past them or standing just behind their shoulder. Items sometimes move inexplicably, chairs shift, or medical equipment behaves in ways that seem impossible. New employees often find these experiences unnerving, though those familiar with the building have learned to accept the occasional supernatural occurrence as part of life at Brandon Mental Health Center. Patients who have visited or been admitted to the facility in more recent years have also reported strange experiences. Some speak of hearing voices or feeling watched in certain parts of the building. Others describe shadowy figures moving past their rooms or catching glimpses of phantom nurses in the corner of their vision. These encounters, though fleeting, leave a lasting impression and contribute to the building's notoriety. The dark history of the Brandon Mental Health Center is inseparable from its haunted reputation. Overcrowding, primitive treatments, and the emotional strain of both patients and staff created an environment ripe for the lingering presence of energy or spirits. From electroshock therapy and isolation to the neglect that occurred in understaffed wards, countless individuals experienced intense fear, pain, and suffering within these walls. Many believe that the residual energy from these experiences manifests today in the form of ghostly figures, unexplained sounds, and eerie sensations that cannot be dismissed. The combination of haunting phenomena, doors opening on their own, phantom nurses, chilling screams, and sudden temperature drops makes Brandon Mental Health Center a focal point for both local folklore and paranormal investigation. Visitors are often struck by the oppressive atmosphere, reporting feelings of dread, sadness, or unease that linger long after they leave. Whether interpreted as spirits, echoes of the past, or unexplained energy, the phenomena at Brandon continue to captivate and terrify. Brandon Mental Health Center stands as a reminder of the complex and sometimes dark history of mental health care in Canada. While it served as a place of treatment and refuge, it also witnessed immense suffering. The ghosts and paranormal activity reported there are a testament to the lingering impact of that history, creating a location where the echoes of the past are impossible to ignore. For those who enter its halls, the building is more than a historical site. It is a place where the shadows of history continue to walk, whisper, and scream, leaving an indelible mark on all who pass through. Royal Columbian Hospital in New Westminster, British Columbia, is one of the province's oldest and most respected medical facilities. But behind its modern halls and bustling wards lies a history of unexplained and chilling activity. While the hospital continues to provide essential care to thousands of patients each year, it has long been notorious among staff and visitors for reports of paranormal phenomena. Nurses, doctors, and patients alike have shared unsettling experiences that suggest the building may be haunted, making it a location of both medical and supernatural significance. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is phantom footsteps. Night shift nurses often describe hearing the distinct sound of someone walking behind them in empty corridors. The steps are deliberate, matching the pace of a person but with no visible source. Staff frequently turn to see if someone is following, only to find the hallways completely empty. These footsteps have been reported near patient wards, treatment rooms, and even in administrative areas, creating a pervasive feeling that unseen eyes are always watching. The phenomenon is so consistent that many staff have come to expect it, though it never loses its unnerving effect. Patients have also reported sightings of figures that no one else can see. These apparitions often appear at the foot of their beds or standing silently in doorways, leaving patients confused and frightened. Some describe fleeting shadows moving across the walls, while others see fully formed figures dressed in outdated medical attire. These encounters are typically brief, with the figures vanishing almost instantly, but the emotional impact on those who experience them can be profound. Many patients describe a sense of unease, a sudden chill, or the sensation of being watched even after the figure disappears. The most terrifying and widely circulated story involves a man dressed entirely in black. Witnesses report seeing him standing silently at the foot of patients' beds, particularly those who are critically ill or near death. His presence is described as oppressive, filling the room with a sense of dread and inevitability. Nurses recount entering rooms only to find this dark figure standing motionless, and as soon as the patient passes away, the figure vanishes without a trace. Some interpret him as a harbinger of death, a shadowy entity that appears only when someone is about to die. The encounters are so consistent that staff have come to associate the appearance of the man in black with moments of imminent loss. Though whether he is a ghost, a projection, or something else entirely remains a mystery. The hospital's long history contributes to its haunted reputation. Founded in the late 19th century, Royal Columbian has witnessed generations of births, deaths, and everything in between. Like many hospitals of its age, it has been a place of intense human emotion, fear, grief, hope, and relief concentrated in tight spaces over decades. Stories of tragic deaths, sudden illnesses, and emotional extremes seem to linger in the building, manifesting as ghostly activity that continues to affect those within its walls. Many staff members who work night shifts describe experiences that go beyond footsteps or shadowy figures. Lights flicker inexplicably, equipment moves on its own, and doors open or close without anyone nearby. Some report feeling a sudden drop in temperature in isolated rooms, accompanied by a sense of unease that grows stronger the longer they remain in the area. The combination of visual, auditory, and sensory phenomena creates an environment where it is easy to believe that the hospital is not entirely empty. The man in black, in particular, leaves a lasting impression on those who encounter him. Witnesses describe an overwhelming feeling of dread, a physical heaviness in the room, and a sense of inevitability. Even seasoned nurses, familiar with the hospital's haunted reputation, report a deep and instinctive fear when they see him. Patients often remember the encounter vividly, recalling the oppressive atmosphere and the figure's stillness. For many, the experience is terrifying, yet strangely calm at the same time, as if the figure is merely observing rather than acting with malice. Paranormal investigators have long been interested in Royal Columbian Hospital, drawn by its consistent reports of supernatural activity. Investigators often use audio and video equipment to capture unexplained phenomena. Shadowy figures occasionally appear on cameras, and electronic voice phenomena, EVP, sometimes record faint whispers or cries in empty rooms. Temperature anomalies are also common, with sudden cold spots forming in areas with no ventilation. Many investigators believe that the energy in the hospital is tied to the intensity of past events, births, deaths, emergencies, and the emotional weight of countless patients and staff over more than a century. Even with modern renovations, the haunted reputation of Royal Columbian persists. New wings, updated medical technology, and bright lighting have not erased the stories of ghostly figures, phantom footsteps, or the man in black. Night shift employees, new and old, continue to share accounts of encounters that defy explanation. Visitors and patients alike have reported sensing presences, seeing fleeting shadows, or hearing the faint echo of footsteps in otherwise quiet corridors. Royal Columbian Hospital is a place where the line between the living and the unseen seems to blur. The reports of phantom nurses, shadowy figures, and the man in black create an atmosphere where history and mystery coexist. The presence of these apparitions, particularly those associated with death and critical moments, underscores the idea that hospitals are more than just buildings. They are repositories of human experience, emotion, and memory. For those who walk its hallways, Royal Columbian Hospital is both a center of healing and a place where the past continues to whisper. Phantom footsteps echo in empty corridors, figures appear and vanish, and the man in black serves as a chilling reminder of life's fragility. The combination of historical significance and supernatural reports makes Royal Columbian a unique and unsettling location, one where the echoes of the past are impossible to ignore and the presence of the unseen continues to haunt every darkened hallway. Selkirk Mental Health Center in Manitoba has been a cornerstone of psychiatric care for over a century. But alongside its medical history lies a reputation steeped in eerie legends and unexplained occurrences. The facility, which has treated generations of patients, carries with it the weight of countless lives marked by struggle, fear, and sometimes suffering. Over time, these intense human experiences appear to have left an imprint on the building, creating a space where staff, patients, and visitors frequently report encounters with the paranormal. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Selkirk Mental Health Center is the presence of shadowy figures. Witnesses describe fleeting silhouettes lingering in corners, moving just out of the direct line of sight, only to vanish when approached. These shadows are often accompanied by a palpable sense of unease, a cold chill that seems to seep into the bones, or the sensation of being watched. Some staff members have learned to recognize these fleeting shapes, noting that they appear most frequently in older wings of the hospital or in hallways that were once used as patient wards. The figures do not seem aggressive, but their sudden appearance and disappearance leave a lasting impression of otherworldly activity. Among the most compelling stories is that of a ghostly nurse who is said to comfort distressed patients. Those who have encountered her describe a woman dressed in an old-fashioned nursing uniform, moving quietly through the corridors. She appears at moments of intense emotional or psychological distress, standing silently beside a patient's bed, offering a presence that is both unsettling and oddly soothing. Some staff members report feeling an inexplicable sense of calm during these encounters, as though the nurse is there to watch over those in need, even long after her own life ended. Attempts to approach her often result in her vanishing into the shadows, leaving behind only a lingering sense of reassurance mixed with mystery. The auditory phenomena at Selkirk Mental Health Center are equally chilling. Many who work night shifts report hearing whispers echoing through empty hallways. These murmurs often seem conversational, though no one is present and the words are typically indistinct. The sound is most pronounced in the older sections of the building, particularly where patients were once treated for severe mental illnesses. Residents and staff alike have described the sensation of being followed by these whispers, the voices seeming to drift just behind them as they move through the corridors. Some say the whispers can provoke a sense of paranoia, while others interpret them as echoes of the countless patients who experienced fear, confusion, and distress over the decades. Shadow figures and whispers are often accompanied by other unexplained phenomena. Doors have been reported opening and closing on their own, sometimes with an almost deliberate motion, and lights flicker without any electrical cause. Staff have recounted sudden temperature drops in isolated rooms where the air feels heavy and oppressive. These occurrences are often concentrated in areas that have remained largely unchanged since the facility's early years, suggesting that the history of the building itself may be connected to the haunting experiences. The Selkirk Mental Health Center has attracted the attention of paranormal investigators, drawn by the consistency of reports and the intensity of the experiences. Using audio recording equipment, investigators have captured unexplained whispers and occasional fleeting noises that cannot be attributed to staff or patients. Video and photography sometimes reveal shadowy shapes or movements that vanish when the camera focuses on them directly. Temperature anomalies and sensations of unseen presences are regularly noted in detailed reports, further reinforcing the notion that the building holds lingering energy from its long history. Patients, too, have reported unexplainable experiences. Some describe glimpsing figures at the edges of their vision or feeling a presence standing silently in the room, especially during moments of distress or fear. Others have heard the soft murmur of voices or felt a sudden cold breeze, even when the room is closed and still. These encounters, though brief, leave a lasting impression, often making patients more aware of the hospital, its unusual atmosphere, and the sense that the building itself remembers the countless lives that passed through it. The ghostly nurse remains one of the most consistent figures reported at Selkirk Mental Health Center. Staff and patients alike describe her as moving with purpose, gliding silently along hallways and appearing only where she is needed most. Her presence is never threatening. In fact, she is often described as calming, a spectral figure whose attention seems focused entirely on offering comfort. Some believe she may be the lingering spirit of a caregiver from the facility's earlier years, continuing her mission to aid patients even after death. Selkirk's long history, combined with the intensity of human emotion experienced within its walls, appears to have created an environment ripe for paranormal activity. The shadows, whispers, and occasional comforting presence of the nurse suggest that the building retains echoes of the past, providing a haunting yet strangely empathetic reminder of the lives once lived within its halls. Even with modern renovations and updated care practices, the stories persist, reinforcing the idea that some of the hospital's energy cannot be erased. For those who walk the hallways of Selkirk Mental Health Center, the experience is a mixture of awe and unease. The shadows that linger in corners, the whispers that echo through empty halls, and the comforting presence of the ghostly nurse all point to a building alive with memory. The center serves as both a place of healing and a monument to its past, a reminder that the human experiences within its walls continue to resonate long after the patients and staff have moved on. Selkirk Mental Health Center is not just a hospital, it is a space where the echoes of history walk silently alongside the living, watching, listening, and occasionally offering spectral comfort to those in need. Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue Veterans Hospital in Quebec has long been a place of healing for those who served in the armed forces, but it also carries a reputation that reaches far beyond its medical care. Over the decades, countless veterans have spent their final days within its walls, and many of the stories associated with the hospital suggest that some of these men never truly left. Staff, patients, and visitors alike have reported a variety of unexplained phenomena, ranging from eerie sounds to ghostly apparitions, making the hospital one of the most chillingly haunted locations in the province. One of the most commonly reported occurrences involves the sound of boots echoing through the halls. Staff members on late-night shifts often hear the unmistakable rhythm of marching boots striking the floor in precise cadence, as if a platoon were moving down the corridor. These sounds typically appear long after the lights have been turned off and the hallways are otherwise empty. Staff who investigate find no one present, yet the sounds persist, fading only after several minutes. Many describe the experience as both unsettling and surreal, as if the echoes are a lingering imprint of soldiers from another time, forever repeating a routine that defined their lives. In addition to the phantom marching, numerous patients have reported waking to find a ghostly soldier at the foot of their bed. Witnesses describe the figure as dressed in full uniform, rigid and motionless, silently observing them. The soldier does not speak or make any threatening gestures, yet his presence is profoundly unnerving. Some patients feel a sense of vigilance, as if the soldier is still performing a duty even in death, watching over those in his care. Others experience fear or discomfort, startled by the sudden appearance of the apparition. The encounters are brief, with the figure often vanishing when the patient fully focuses on him, but the emotional impact lingers long afterward. Staff have also shared unsettling experiences throughout the building. Lights flicker inexplicably, doors open and close on their own, and the air sometimes grows cold without reason. Nurses and caretakers frequently report the sensation of being followed or watched, particularly in the older wings of the hospital, where many of the long-term residents were once treated. Shadows are said to move along corridors, vanishing as soon as someone tries to look directly at them. These phenomena combine to create an atmosphere that feels both reverent and haunted, a reflection of the hospital's unique history and the intensity of the experiences it has contained. The hospital's long-standing reputation as a haunted location is closely tied to its history. Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue Veterans Hospital has served generations of soldiers, many of whom endured physical and psychological trauma from their service. The intensity of these experiences, with the finality of death for some patients, has created an environment where the past seems to linger, manifesting in ghostly sounds and apparitions. It is as if the hospital itself has absorbed the energy of those who once lived, worked, and died within its walls, projecting it back to the living in fleeting, mysterious ways. Paranormal investigators have frequently visited the hospital, drawn by the consistency of reported experiences and the compelling nature of the stories. Audio equipment has captured unexplained footsteps and marching sounds, often coinciding with the times when staff reported hearing them. Shadows and faint figures have been caught on video in hallways that are otherwise empty, and temperature anomalies are common, with sudden cold spots appearing in older sections of the building. Investigators suggest that the strong emotional imprint left by veterans combined with the hospital's age and architecture creates conditions ripe for supernatural activity. Patients' encounters with the ghostly soldier are often described in similar terms. Many report feeling a presence at the foot of the bed, a combination of observation and quiet intensity. Some describe a feeling of being protected, as if the soldier is silently maintaining a watchful guard. Others experience a heavier sense of dread, particularly in rooms where a patient is critically ill. Witnesses consistently note that the soldier's appearance is transient, vanishing as quickly as it arrives, leaving behind only a sense of weight or tension that slowly dissipates. The echo of marching boots and the presence of the ghostly soldier seem to serve as reminders of the hospital's past, connecting the living to the men who once inhabited its halls. These apparitions carry with them the weight of history, the sacrifices, fears, and unspoken experiences of veterans who dedicated their lives to service. The phenomenon is not malevolent, but rather hauntingly poignant, as if the spirits are replaying moments from their own lives or maintaining a connection to the living world that they never fully left behind. Staff who work night shifts in Santander Bellevue often learn to accept these occurrences as part of their environment. New employees, however, are frequently startled by sudden footsteps or the appearance of a soldier in a darkened room. Over time, many develop a deep respect for the stories and an understanding that the hospital is a place where the line between past and present can blur, and where the echoes of history are very much alive. The combination of auditory, visual, and sensory phenomena at Santander Bellevue Veterans Hospital creates an atmosphere that is both eerie and deeply evocative. The marching boots, the shadowy figure of the soldier, the shifting shadows, and the cold spots all contribute to a building that seems alive with memory. It is a place where the experiences of veterans, both triumphant and tragic, continue to resonate, creating encounters that are impossible to explain but profoundly affecting for anyone walking the quiet hallways of the presence of the past is palpable. The echo of boots striking the floor, the silent watch of the ghostly soldier, and the whispers of a century of patience combine to make the hospital a place where history and the supernatural intersect. The spirits of those who served, and sometimes never left, remain a constant reminder that some energies are too powerful to fade, lingering in the shadows, to observe, to watch, and occasionally to comfort. St. Boniface Hospital in Winnipeg, Manitoba, is a modern medical facility serving thousands of patients each year. Yet it carries with it a reputation for ghostly activity that has persisted for decades. While the hospital continues to operate as a center of care, staff, patients, and visitors alike have reported a variety of strange occurrences that suggest the presence of spirits lingering in its hallways. Among these tales, none is more famous or widely discussed than the legend of the Lady in White, a spectral figure said to appear most often in the hospital's older wings. The Lady in White is frequently described as gliding silently through the corridors, her presence unmistakable yet fleeting. Patients who encounter her often describe a feeling of calm mixed with unease, as if the figure is both protective and otherworldly. Witnesses say she wears an old-fashioned nurse's uniform, crisp and white, her movements slow and deliberate. She is rarely seen in full detail. Instead, observers often catch glimpses of her flowing gown or the outline of her figure as she disappears around corners or through closed doors. Despite the eerie circumstances, many report that her presence is comforting rather than threatening, as if she is still performing her duties of care long after her death. Staff members working night shifts are among the most frequent witnesses to the Lady in White. Many have recounted experiences of walking through empty hallways only to feel a sudden chill in the air, accompanied by the sensation that someone is walking just behind them. When they turn, the corridor is empty, yet the feeling of being observed persists. Some have reported hearing soft footsteps, faint laughter, or the distant murmur of voices when no one else is present. These phenomena are most commonly reported in the older sections of the hospital, which retain much of their original design and have long been associated with the hospital's storied past. Patients have also encountered the lady in white during vulnerable moments. Some describe waking in the middle of the night to find her standing silently near their bed, watching over them. Others claim to see her gliding past windows or hallways, her presence leaving a lingering sense of reassurance. The figure seems to appear most often where patients are in distress, suggesting that her spirit is drawn to those who are suffering. Continuing the mission of care she devoted herself to in life. There are reports of the figure vanishing when approached, leaving witnesses with a mix of awe and lingering unease, as if a moment of connection with the past has just occurred. The hospital itself contributes to the mysterious atmosphere. Its older wings, with high ceilings, narrow corridors, and long hallways, create spaces where shadows can stretch unnaturally and sounds echo in ways that make the ordinary seem strange. Flickering lights, the hum of machinery, and distant footsteps can amplify the feeling that unseen presences are nearby. Many who have worked at St. Boniface for years note that the combination of historical architecture and decades of human emotion, joy, sorrow, fear, and hope creates a unique environment where unexplained phenomena are more easily experienced. The lady in white is believed to be the ghost of a nurse who devoted her life to caring for patients. Stories passed down among hospital staff suggest that she was deeply committed to her duties, often going beyond what was required to comfort those in her care. Even in death, her spirit seems to linger, continuing her mission. Witnesses consistently report that she is not aggressive or frightening. Rather, her presence is attentive and purposeful. Many describe the feeling of being watched in a calm, almost protective way, as if she is ensuring the safety and well-being of the patients and staff around her. Paranormal investigators have long taken an interest in St. Boniface Hospital because of the recurring reports of the lady in white. Using audio recording equipment, investigators have captured unexplained footsteps, soft whispers, and faint voices in empty corridors. Video surveillance and photography have occasionally revealed shadowy shapes or outlines resembling the figure described by staff and patients. Temperature fluctuations, particularly sudden cold spots, are also frequently recorded in the older wings, adding to the hospital's reputation as a site of paranormal activity. Many researchers believe that the hospital retains a strong emotional imprint from decades of care and trauma, making it a fertile ground for ghostly phenomena. Despite its haunted reputation, St. Boniface Hospital continues to function as a center of healing. Staff and patients navigate both the challenges of modern medicine and the occasional brush with the unexplained. Many new employees hear the stories of the lady in white and are initially skeptical, only to have their own experiences lend credibility to the legends. Over time, the tales become a part of the hospital's identity, a reminder that its history is inseparable from the memories of those who walked its corridors before. Encounters with the lady in white often leave lasting impressions. Witnesses report feeling a mixture of reverence, fear, and comfort, a combination that is difficult to forget. The figure's presence seems to bridge the gap between past and present, connecting current patients and staff with a legacy of care and devotion. Her apparition is a reminder that the hospital is more than just a building. It is a repository of human experience, emotion, and memory, where echoes of the past continue to manifest in subtle yet profound ways. From shadowy figures in corners to footsteps in empty hallways, the legends of St. Boniface Hospital continue to captivate those who hear them. The lady in white stands as the most enduring of these stories, a symbol of care and devotion that transcends death. For anyone walking the hospital's corridors, the atmosphere is charged with history, and the possibility of encountering a spirit who still watches over the living adds an unforgettable layer to the experience. In a place devoted to healing, the Lady in White reminds all who see her that some acts of care echo far beyond a single lifetime, lingering in the halls long after the caregivers themselves have passed. Alberta Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta, is a long-standing psychiatric facility with a reputation for both critical mental health care and unsettling paranormal activity. While the hospital continues to operate and treat patients to this day, staff and visitors alike report a variety of strange occurrences that suggest the presence of spirits lingering within its walls. Over the years, these stories have grown in both number and intensity, making Alberta Hospital one of the most talked about haunted locations in the province. One of the most common experiences reported by staff involves flickering lights. Nurses and attendants frequently note that lights in certain hallways or rooms will dim and flare without explanation. Even when the electrical systems are functioning normally, the flickering is often accompanied by an eerie sense of being watched, a sensation that grows stronger when the hallway is empty. Staff describe moments when they pause, sensing a presence just beyond their line of sight, only for the lights to suddenly return to normal, leaving behind a lingering unease. Doors locking and unlocking on their own is another frequent phenomenon. Hallways that appear completely empty will suddenly have doors slam shut, sometimes trapping staff or patients momentarily. In other cases, doors that should be locked swing open silently, revealing empty rooms. The inexplicable movement of doors has left many employees shaken, as it seems as though unseen hands are actively interacting with the environment. Some staff members refuse to check these areas alone, especially during late-night shifts, citing an overwhelming sense of dread that makes even routine tasks unsettling. Physical sensations of unseen contact are also commonly reported. People walking down the hospital's older corridors often describe the feeling of hands brushing against their arms or shoulders, only to find that no one is near them. These fleeting touches can range from light and almost comforting to cold and jarring, leaving witnesses questioning whether what they felt was real. Some staff members report experiencing these touches in the same areas repeatedly, suggesting that certain parts of the hospital are particularly active with paranormal energy. Security cameras have occasionally captured what appears to be ghostly figures moving through deserted areas. In some instances, staff reviewing footage have seen shadowy forms walking down empty hallways or lingering in doorways. These figures do not match any known personnel schedules, and repeated attempts to match the movements with staff activities have failed. The images are often brief and blurry, yet consistent, enough to raise concern and curiosity among hospital administrators and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Alberta Hospital's long history contributes to its haunted reputation. As one of the province's primary psychiatric facilities, it has seen generations of patients come and go, many of whom endured significant mental and emotional challenges. The intensity of human emotion, concentrated over decades, fear, sadness, frustration, and moments of relief, seems to have left an imprint on the building. The older wings, in particular, have a history of overcrowding and long-term patient care, creating environments ripe for paranormal activity. Employees on night shifts are often the most likely to experience these phenomena. The quiet of the hospital after hours, combined with dim lighting and long corridors, can make even the simplest noises seem ominous. Footsteps echo unnaturally, shadows appear to move along walls, and the sensation of being observed can intensify. While some staff dismiss these experiences as tricks of the mind, many come to accept them as part of the hospital's atmosphere, learning to navigate their shifts while respecting the presence that seems to linger in the halls. Patients have also reported unusual encounters. Some describe seeing figures in the corner of their vision, only for them to vanish when looked at directly. Others have felt sudden cold spots or experienced unexplained noises, such as soft whispering or faint footsteps, when no one else is nearby. While these experiences are brief and often dismissed by others, for those who witness them, the encounters are deeply affecting, leaving an impression of a world just beyond the physical. Paranormal investigators have taken an interest in Alberta Hospital, drawn by the consistency and intensity of reported phenomena. Audio recording equipment has captured unexplained voices, footsteps, and occasional faint knocks in empty rooms. Video surveillance occasionally reveals shadowy forms or unexplained movements that cannot be attributed to staff or patients. Temperature anomalies, such as sudden drops in specific areas, are frequently documented. Investigators suggest that the combination of a long history of emotional intensity and the architectural design of the hospital's narrow corridors, high ceilings, and enclosed wards creates an environment conducive to paranormal activity. Despite these haunting experiences, Alberta Hospital continues to function as a vital medical facility. Staff and patients work and live alongside the unexplained, learning to coexist with a presence that seems to linger throughout the building. For many employees, the paranormal activity becomes a part of the hospital's identity, a reminder of the human lives that have passed through its halls and the emotional energy that remains. The combination of flickering lights, moving doors, unseen touches, and shadowy figures makes Alberta Hospital a unique location where the past and present intersect in mysterious ways. Whether it is the faint brushing of a hand against a nurse's shoulder, the sight of a shadow moving down a deserted corridor, or the eerie glow of a flickering light, the hospital is a place where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist. For those who walk its halls, Alberta Hospital is more than a psychiatric facility. It is a repository of memory and emotion, a place where the lives of countless patients and staff continue to resonate in ways that are sometimes chilling, sometimes comforting, but always undeniably present. The unseen hands, phantom footsteps, and shadowy figures are reminders that in a building with such a long and intense history, the line between the living and the departed is often blurred, leaving a haunting impression that stays long after one has left its corridors. Toronto General Hospital in Toronto, Ontario, is known as one of Canada's busiest and most respected medical institutions. But alongside its reputation for advanced care lies a history shrouded in mystery and unexplained occurrences. Staff, patients, and visitors have reported numerous paranormal experiences over the years, making the hospital a hotspot for ghost stories. These stories, though unsettling, are persistent and consistent, suggesting that Toronto General harbors a unique energy shaped by decades of life, death, and human emotion within its walls. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of a ghostly nurse. Witnesses describe her wearing an old-fashioned nurse's cap and uniform, appearing in older wings of the hospital where the architecture and have remained largely unchanged for decades. Staff members claim she moves silently through hallways and patient rooms, attending to those who are ill or resting in their beds. Many who have seen her report a mix of awe and comfort, sensing her presence as protective rather than threatening. Patients describe glimpses of her standing beside their bed, adjusting blankets or monitoring them with careful attention, only to vanish when anyone approaches. Some speculate that she is a spirit of a caregiver who devoted her life to nursing and continues her duties in death, her devotion lingering long after her passing. The hospital's long history and intense patient care provide a plausible explanation for these sightings. Toronto General has treated countless individuals over decades, including those in critical condition. The emotions experienced, pain, hope, fear, and relief, may have left an imprint on the building, particularly in the older sections. The ghostly nurse appears to embody that imprint, a manifestation of care and compassion that refuses to fade with time. In addition to the nurse, there are reports of an elderly man in a hospital gown wandering the corridors. Witnesses describe him as frail, moving slowly, often appearing near stairwells or long hallways. He is most frequently seen in areas adjacent to patient wards, yet he never reaches the elevators before disappearing completely. Staff members who have followed the path where he was seen report finding the hallways completely empty, as if he vanished into thin air. Some interpret him as a former patient, perhaps one who passed away in the hospital but whose spirit continues to roam, bound to the place where he spent his final days. His presence is often described as melancholy, evoking a sense of sadness and unresolved energy. Auditory experiences are also common at Toronto General. Staff working overnight shifts frequently report hearing footsteps echoing along empty corridors, the creak of doors opening and closing, and faint whispers that cannot be traced to any living person. Patients have occasionally described hearing murmured voices in their rooms, sometimes as clear as a conversation but with no discernible source. Others have experienced sudden cold spots or a sudden drop in temperature when alone, a sensation that heightens the feeling of being watched. These phenomena often occur in the older parts of the hospital. The hospital's design contributes to its mysterious atmosphere. Long corridors, high ceilings, and numerous patient rooms create spaces where shadows can stretch unnaturally and sounds can echo in ways that make ordinary noises appear sinister. Many staff members report that they have learned to navigate these spaces carefully, especially during night shifts, because even minor disturbances, flickering lights, a moving cart, or a distant sound can feel amplified in the quiet, dimly lit environment. Paranormal investigators have taken interest in Toronto General due to the consistency and specificity of the reported phenomena. Using audio and video recording equipment, they have captured unexplained shadows, brief glimpses of figures in the hallways, and occasional voice anomalies on EVP recordings. Temperature fluctuations, especially sudden cold spots in specific rooms or corridors, are also common. Investigators suggest that the hospital's long history, coupled with the intense human emotions experienced there, creates conditions conducive to paranormal manifestations. Patients have their own encounters with the supernatural at Toronto General. Many describe feeling the presence of the ghostly nurse when they are alone and vulnerable, such as during long nights in the hospital bed. The sensation is often described as both calming and eerie, as if someone is there to watch over them while remaining completely unseen by others. Others recount seeing the elderly man in a gown while being moved between wards, feeling a sudden chill or sense of melancholy before the figure vanishes. Even brief glimpses leave lasting impressions, making the hospital a place where the extraordinary subtly intersects with the everyday. Despite its haunted reputation, Toronto General continues to function as a center for medical care, balancing its modern operations with the weight of history. Many employees come to accept the hospital's ghost stories as part of its identity, sharing experiences with colleagues and forming a collective awareness of the spirits said to inhabit the building. For some, the encounters are reminders of the humanity that exists within the hospital, a connection to the countless lives cared for over generations. The combination of visual apparitions, auditory phenomena, and sudden physical sensations gives Toronto General Hospital an air of mystery that persists even amid its bustling modern operations. The ghostly nurse and the elderly man in the gowns serve as the most enduring figures, their presence a testament to the hospital's long history and the deep emotional imprint left by those who lived and died within its walls. These spirits act as silent witnesses, their apparitions bridging the gap between past and present, leaving those who encounter them with a lasting sense that the hospital is a place where care, memory, and the unexplained coexist. For anyone walking the quiet hallways of Toronto General, the stories of the ghostly nurse and the elderly man are more than mere legends. They are a reflection of the hospital's unique history, a reminder that the lives and emotions experienced within these walls continue to echo, shaping an atmosphere where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist in quiet, haunting ways. Saskatchewan Hospital in North Battleford is one of the province's most well-known psychiatric institutions, not only for its long history of mental health care, but also for the chilling legends that surround it. The sprawling facility, with its old wards, long corridors, and isolated rooms, has been the backdrop for decades of human emotion, ranging from hope and recovery to despair and suffering. These intense experiences, combined with the building's age and architecture, have made it a hotspot for reported paranormal activity, drawing attention from staff, patients, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Staff working night shifts at Saskatchewan Hospital often recount hearing unexplainable noises echoing through the empty halls. One of the most common phenomena is the sound of unearthly cries that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. These cries are sometimes high-pitched and childlike, at other times guttural and mournful, leaving those who hear them shaken. Even when they attempt to investigate, the source of the sound remains elusive, fading as soon as attention is focused directly on it. Employees describe the experience as both haunting and unsettling, a reminder that the building holds layers of history far beyond what is visible in the daylight. Ghostly figures are another frequent sighting at Saskatchewan Hospital. People report glimpsing shadowy forms at the edges of their vision, particularly in older patient wings and isolated rooms. Some figures appear fully formed, wearing old-fashioned hospital attire, while others are more spectral, barely distinguishable from the darkness of the hallways. Witnesses often notice the figures peering out from behind doors or standing silently in corners, vanishing when anyone approaches. Many staff members describe the sensation of being watched for long stretches, even when the hallways are empty, adding a layer of psychological tension to the already demanding environment of night shifts. One of the most haunting and consistent stories involves a child's laughter echoing from the basement. The basement has long been abandoned to staff access, and no children have been admitted to Saskatchewan Hospital for decades. Yet employees walking through maintenance areas or empty corridors report hearing the unmistakable sound of laughter, clear and joyful, bouncing off the walls in ways that feel eerily out of place. Sometimes the laughter is accompanied by soft footsteps or the faint sound of a ball rolling across the floor. Yet when investigated, the area is completely deserted. Those who have experienced it describe a mixture of fear and sorrow, as if the sound is a memory trapped in the building, replaying events from a past long forgotten. The hospital's architecture amplifies the unsettling atmosphere. Long, narrow hallways, high ceilings, and closed-off patient rooms create shadows that stretch unnaturally and allow sounds to echo in ways that make even minor noises feel amplified. Many staff members have noted that these architectural features seem to make the building itself a conduit for strange activity. Even the hum of electrical equipment or the occasional slam of a door can feel ominous when combined with the reports of ghostly sightings and unexplained sounds. Paranormal investigators have visited Saskatchewan Hospital multiple times, drawn by the frequency and intensity of the reports. Audio equipment has captured whispers and cries that cannot be explained by any living source. And video footage occasionally shows shadowy shapes moving through empty rooms and corridors. Temperature anomalies are also common, with sudden cold spots appearing in the middle of otherwise normal hallways. Many investigators believe that the emotional imprint left by decades of suffering, treatment, and human experience has created an environment where supernatural manifestations are more likely to occur. Patients, while less frequently exposed to the more dramatic paranormal activity, have also reported encounters. Some describe seeing shadowy figures at the foot of their beds, while others have felt sudden touches or the sensation of someone standing close by when no one else is in the room. A few have claimed to hear whispers offering comfort or guidance, though the source is never visible. These experiences often leave a lasting impression, making the hospital feel simultaneously alive and haunted in ways that are difficult to articulate. Staff who have worked at Saskatchewan Hospital for years often develop a cautious respect for the building's atmosphere. New employees are frequently startled by the sudden noises, shadowy movements, or inexplicable cold spots. But over time, many come to accept that the hospital has a presence all its own. Some have even begun to interpret the unexplained phenomena as echoes of the people who lived, suffered, and sometimes died within the hospital. An invisible reminder of the emotional intensity concentrated there over generations. One particularly unsettling aspect of the hospital's ghost stories is the consistency of experiences across decades. Whether reported by staff in the 1970s or current employees, the descriptions of cries, laughter, shadows, and strange sensations remain remarkably similar. This continuity adds weight to the claims, suggesting that the building itself may carry memories of its past, manifesting in ways that are visible, audible, or perceptible only as an emotional presence. While Saskatchewan Hospital continues to serve its essential function as a psychiatric care facility, the legends and unexplained experiences surrounding it remain an integral part of its identity. From ghostly figures peering from rooms to the laughter of children in empty basements, the hospital is a place where the past is never truly gone. Staff, patients, and visitors navigate both the tangible realities of mental health care and the lingering echoes of history that seem to walk the hallways alongside them. The combination of visual apparitions, disembodied sounds, and physical sensations at Saskatchewan Hospital creates an environment that is as eerie as it is fascinating. The cries in the night, the fleeting shadow figures, and the child's laughter all serve as reminders that some places carry the weight of memory and emotion so intensely that it leaves a mark beyond the physical. In the halls of Saskatchewan Hospital, the past is never far away, and the spirits of those who once inhabited the building seem determined to make their presence known, whether through a whisper, a fleeting shadow, or the chilling echo of laughter from a basement long abandoned. Montreal General Hospital in Montreal, Quebec, has been a cornerstone of healthcare in the city since the 1800s, treating countless patients across generations. Yet, alongside its reputation for advanced medicine and critical care, the hospital has developed a reputation for unexplained phenomena that has persisted for decades. Staff, patients, and visitors alike report experiences that suggest the presence of spirits lingering in the hospital's older corridors, wards, and stairwells. These reports range from subtle sensations to outright apparitions, creating an atmosphere where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. Many employees recount strange occurrences with the hospital's elevators. Elevators are said to stop on empty floors without any input, doors opening to reveal deserted hallways. Staff members using the lifts alone often report a sudden drop in temperature or a feeling of being watched. In some cases, the elevator will move slowly to a floor and then stop for no reason, leaving employees to step out into long, empty corridors, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. These unsettling events are frequently reported during night shifts, when the hospital is quieter and shadows dominate the hallways, heightening the sense of unease. Icy chills are another common phenomenon. Staff often describe sudden cold spots in certain rooms or hallways, particularly in the hospital's older sections. These chills appear abruptly, sometimes following or preceding other strange events such as unexplained sounds, shadowy movements, or the sensation of being touched by an unseen presence. Many report that the temperature shift is so distinct that it can be physically felt, creating a spine-tingling atmosphere that is difficult to ignore. Ghostly figures are among the most widely reported phenomena at Montreal General. Many of these apparitions are seen in outdated uniforms, suggesting they may be the spirits of former nurses, orderlies, or doctors who worked in the hospital during earlier eras. Witnesses describe seeing figures gliding silently down the hallways or standing at the end of corridors, only to vanish when approached. Patients and staff alike have encountered fleeting glimpses of these figures near patient rooms, surgical wards, or along stairwells. The appearances are often accompanied by a feeling of calm observation, as if the spirit is silently performing its duties even in death. Some patients, particularly those in surgical wards, report encounters with what they describe as a shadow doctor. This figure is typically seen standing silently in corners, observing the room without interacting. Patients recount that the shadowy figure appears and disappears with no warning, leaving a lingering sense of being watched. The shadow doctor is described as tall and indistinct, often blurred at the edges, as though composed of darkness rather than solid matter. The presence is generally non-threatening, but deeply unsettling, evoking feelings of both awe and unease in those who encounter it. Auditory phenomena are also common in Montreal General Hospital. Staff members report hearing the faint sounds of footsteps echoing through empty corridors, the soft creak of doors opening or closing, and distant whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Many of these sounds occur in the hospital's older wards, where decades of activity and human emotion have concentrated. Some employees have developed a cautious respect for certain areas, knowing that strange occurrences are more likely in spaces steeped in history. The hospital's architecture amplifies these experiences. Long hallways, high ceilings, and enclosed wards create spaces where shadows stretch unnaturally and sounds carry in unexpected ways. Even minor noises, such as the clatter of a cart or the hum of machinery, can become amplified in these areas, contributing to the sense that the building itself is alive with unseen activity. Staff working overnight shifts often report that even routine tasks become tense experiences when the hospital feels charged with an unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Montreal General because of the consistency and intensity of the reported phenomena. Audio recordings frequently capture unexplained noises, including footsteps, knocks, and whispers, while video surveillance occasionally shows shadowy forms moving through hallways or lingering near doors. Temperature anomalies, particularly sudden cold spots, are also commonly documented. Investigators suggest that the hospital's long history, combined with the intense human emotions concentrated within its walls, creates an environment highly conducive to paranormal manifestations. Patients' experiences, though often fleeting, can leave a lasting impression. Many describe seeing shadowy figures at the foot of their beds or in corners of the room, feeling a silent presence without being able to locate it physically. Others recount hearing whispered voices offering reassurance or guidance, though no one else is in the room. These encounters create a complex emotional response. Some patients feel comforted, others deeply unsettled, and most are left with a vivid memory of the hospital as a place where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist. Staff members often come to accept the hospital's haunted reputation as part of its identity. Stories of ghostly figures, unexplained chills, and elevators that move on their own are passed along to new employees, creating a shared awareness of the hospital's unique energy. While the hospital continues to operate as a leading medical facility, the presence of these legends adds a layer of mystery to everyday life within its walls, reminding everyone that the past and present are closely intertwined in this historic institution. The combination of apparitions in outdated uniforms, the shadow doctor, sudden cold spots, and unexplained auditory events gives Montreal General Hospital an aura that is both eerie and fascinating. From the silent observation of ghostly nurses to the chilling presence of the shadow doctor in surgical wards, the hospital's unexplained phenomena continue to captivate those who encounter them. For patients, staff, and visitors alike, Montreal General is more than just a place of healing. It's a location where history, emotion, and the supernatural intersect, leaving an indelible impression that lingers long after one has left its hallways. Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre in Toronto, Ontario, is widely known as one of Canada's leading medical facilities, offering state-of-the-art care across a variety of specialties. Its sprawling complex, modern equipment, and bustling corridors make it a symbol of contemporary healthcare. Yet beneath the bright lights and efficient operations lies a lesser-known aspect of Sunnybrook's history: persistent reports of unexplained paranormal activity. Despite its modern appearance, the hospital has long been the site of chilling stories, particularly in its older wings and during late-night hours when the building is quiet. Staff who work night shifts are often the first to recount encounters with the unknown. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of a woman in a blue hospital gown. Witnesses describe her drifting silently down long corridors, appearing as if she is walking through walls or moving in a fluid, almost ethereal manner. The figure has been seen in patient wings, hallways, and occasionally near rooms where patients are critically ill. Nurses who have observed her report a strange mix of emotions. Her presence is unsettling yet strangely sorrowful, as if she carries the weight of pain or unfinished business from her time in the hospital. The sightings are not limited to visual phenomena. Staff often report sudden cold spots in hallways, particularly when the apparition appears. These temperature drops are abrupt and intense, leaving a physical chill in their wake. Some staff members describe the sensation as a distinct brush against the arm or shoulder, though no one is visibly present. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences contributes to the pervasive sense that the hospital harbors lingering energy from past patients and events. One of the most haunting incidents involved a patient who, in the final hours of their life, summoned a nurse to their bedside. "The lady is here again," the patient whispered, eyes wide with fear. Staff who witnessed the event report that the patient passed away shortly afterward, leaving an indelible impression on the nurse who tended to them. The story has been passed among Sunnybrook staff for years and is often cited as an example of the hospital's unusual atmosphere. It suggests not only the persistence of a spirit, but also its connection to the emotional and physical experiences of patients during their final moments. Auditory phenomena are also common at Sunnybrook, especially during quieter hours. Nurses and maintenance staff have reported hearing footsteps echoing along empty corridors, faint whispers that seem to come from nowhere, and the soft hum of voices in rooms where no one is present. The sounds are often intermittent, sometimes accompanying sightings of the woman in the blue gown, and sometimes occurring independently. These auditory experiences add to the sense that the hospital is alive with unseen activity, particularly in areas that have remained structurally unchanged for decades. Patients occasionally report similar experiences, though their encounters are often more subtle. Some describe feeling watched when alone in their rooms, while others have sensed a presence beside their beds or in the corner of the room. A few have claimed to hear soft, comforting murmurs, though the source is never visible. These experiences, while brief, often leave lasting impressions and contribute to the hospital's reputation as a site where the supernatural intersects with everyday life. The hospital's architectural design plays a role in these phenomena. Long corridors, high ceilings, and older sections of the building create natural echoes and shadows that can amplify both ordinary and extraordinary sounds and movements. Even minor noises, a cart rolling across a hallway, a door closing, or the hum of equipment can take on an ominous quality when combined with reports of visual apparitions and unexplained cold spots. Staff members often develop a heightened awareness when navigating these areas, particularly during night shifts when the building is largely empty. Paranormal investigators have occasionally taken interest in Sunnybrook due to the frequency and consistency of reported activity. Audio recordings have captured unexplained footsteps and murmurs, while video footage sometimes shows indistinct figures moving through hallways. Temperature anomalies and sudden drafts are regularly noted, especially near areas where sightings have been most commonly reported. Investigators speculate that the hospital's long history and the concentration of intense human emotions, fear, pain, hope, and loss have created an environment conducive to paranormal manifestations. Despite these experiences, Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center continues to function as a busy, modern hospital. Staff and patients navigate both the practical demands of healthcare and the subtle reminders of the building's unusual atmosphere. For many employees, the presence of the woman in the blue gown and other unexplained phenomena becomes a familiar, if eerie, part of their work environment. Some choose to view the occurrences as echoes of the hospital's history, remnants of the many lives that have passed through its halls, while others experience them as direct encounters with spirits who remain tied to the building. The combination of visual apparitions, auditory anomalies, and sudden physical sensations gives Sunnybrook a haunting, yet fascinating atmosphere. The woman in the blue gown, in particular, stands out as a figure of both sorrow and mystery, a silent witness to the countless patients who have come and gone. Stories like the one of the patient who called out for her before passing underscore the depth of connection that some believe exists between the living and the lingering spirits in the hospital. For anyone walking the corridors of Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center late at night, the experience can be chilling. The faint echo of footsteps, the brush of an unseen presence, or the fleeting glimpse of a woman in a blue gown serves as a reminder that even in the midst of modern medicine and technology, the hospital's long history continues to leave traces. Sunnybrook remains a place where the line between the living and the unseen is blurred, where the echoes of past lives persist in quiet, haunting ways, and where the supernatural seems to coexist with the daily rhythm of healthcare. And there you have it, friends of the dark, 25 of the most haunted hospitals in Canada. From abandoned asylums, where shadows still scream, to modern hospitals, where patients and nurses encounter ghosts that refuse to move on. These places remind us that the line between life and death is thinner than we think. Hospitals are places of healing, but also of endings. They hold both the joy of new beginnings and the sorrow of final goodbyes. With so much powerful energy lingering in their walls, is it really surprising that spirits might remain behind? Maybe the next time you find yourself walking down a quiet hospital hallway, you'll think about these stories. The sudden creak of a door, the flicker of a light, the feeling that someone is standing right behind you. Maybe it isn't your imagination after all. So, which hospital on this list chilled you the most? Would you dare to step into one of these haunted wards after dark? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing your thoughts. If you enjoyed tonight's journey through the haunted hospitals of Canada, don't forget to like, subscribe. Until next time, my brave friends. It might not just be the nurse on duty. Sweet dreams.